Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you can hear me. I hope that my audio is okay and set up okay. I just broke everything seconds before I was supposed to start. And I'm praying that I got it right, which I doubt I did. Oh, it's a daytime live stream. I don't know how to deal with this. Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So last Sunday, we had the guy who, has been in jail for 39 years on death row because he killed Maureen. He tied her to a tree in the freezing weather and left her handcuffed there for hours. Then he slit her throat, watched her die, and left. But first, before he did that, he had her call her husband and say, "Don't worry, honey, I'm going to be home. He's going to release me." So they sentenced him to death by firing squad. And he's been on death row for 39 years because appeals and court this and court that, hearing and disposition and motions, and we see the court all the time, so we understand. 39 years. Now they're saying, oh, he has dementia. Mentally, you're not allowed to execute him anymore. It's against the law. So they're trying to see if in 21 days from this hearing, which happened, I think, 2 days ago. So it's 19 days from now, I think. 21 days from the hearing that we're watching is when he's scheduled to be executed. So we're hoping we don't get a decision today. And we are hoping we don't get a decision till after Tuesday. And you'll find out why in a little bit. So there was a hearing the day before this hearing that I did not get. I got this hearing, but not the one day before. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please. Okay, so he's done now. So Josh gave us this. Josh lives in Utah. He saw it on the news and he's like, oh my gosh, fibers are going to love this. So we started it last week. So go ahead and just look at the live streams from last week. It's the special one with the special giveaway memberships, the thank you stream. So look for the icon with the thank you stream in it. And that's where this started. Now, I had to get this. I was late getting this. So I had to record it at double the speed. And then I just tried to play it at half speed right before we started. And it was terrible. It was terrible. So I quickly threw it in I threw it in VLC, a different playback, and slowed it down to 80% or 70%. I don't know. So, and then broke everything. And then I closed it by accident and I had to reset everything back up. So hopefully it sounds good. We're about to find out. I'm done talking. If you have any questions, ask Josh. He knows. We might get a special guest also. We might get a special guest during this stream.
We are on the record now. This is the second day of the hearing on Ralph Menzies' commutation petition. My name is Blake Hills. I'm the interim chair of the Board of Pardons and Parole, and I will have my colleagues introduce themselves starting to my right.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Robert Yates, pro tem member of the board.
Good morning. I'm Melissa Starba.
Greg Johnson. And I'm Nathan Evershed, a pro tem member of the board.
We note that counsel and Mr. Menzies are present because there are.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Changed your picture. Thank you so much.
Give some information. Under the Utah Constitution, the Board of Pardons and Parole has the authority to consider clemency when someone has been sentenced to death. This authority is limited to a consideration of commuting a death sentence to a sentence of life without parole. No other clemency relief may be considered. In other words, the board might choose to make no change to the sentence. Or if the board determines the sentence should be changed, the only option is life without parole. No decision will be announced during this hearing today. A decision will come at a later time. After the hearing, the board will deliberate, and when the decision is issued, it will be issued in writing. That will be done as soon as practicable. Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping matters to address. I remind the media that there are some victim representatives who have agreed to allow the media to show their image as part of media presentations. If victims' representatives have not previously consented, the media may not show their images on any production. We anticipate taking breaks periodically this morning. We will try to time those breaks during natural breaking points. The hearing will continue at the appointed time. If you have left and are not back, we will continue the hearing without you. Board members may stand up at any time. Don't let that distract you. Members of the audience, you may get up and leave at any point. Be aware, if you venture beyond the secure points, you will have to clear security before you are allowed back in the boardroom. Finally, we understand that emotions are high involving the issues we are dealing with. We are sympathetic to the strong feelings that everybody has. However, in order to ensure a fair, orderly, and just process, we will not allow anyone to disrupt the proceedings. If your behavior causes disruption to the hearing,
Oh, it's
you
really
may
hard
be
to
removed
pause.
from the hearing room.
Sorry, a fair, just process would be if y'all just leave the room for a second. If y'all just stood up, took the bailiffs with you for just a minute. That would be fair and just. Just saying.
And you may not be allowed back into the hearing room. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Is there anything from either council we need to address?
Not from the state.
My understanding is that we will hear from 10 victim representatives and that 9 of them are here in person and 1 will appear remotely. I will swear all of you in at the same time who are here in person. So would the 9 of you who are here in person, please raise your right hands. Do each of you promise that the testimony you will give today will be truthful and accurate? Thank you all. Heidi Nestel, you are first on the list. If you would approach the microphone. And for each of you who will testify this morning, even though we have your names, if you will begin by stating your name and then go ahead and tell us what you would like the board to know.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Heidi Nestel.
I wonder
I'm
if-
an attorney with
I wonder if it's a firing squad. I wonder if they allow certain people. Like, I wonder if they would allow this person right here that you're talking about to join the firing squad. That would be justice. Let her son do it.
the Utah Crime Victims Legal Clinic. We are a nonprofit that was started 20 years ago to help victims have a voice in the criminal justice system. We help victims navigate complicated and oftentimes overwhelming criminal processes. And we make sure that their voices are heard as resoundingly intended by the voters of Utah and the Utah State Legislature, who passed a state constitutional amendment giving rights to victims as well as
Thank you.
statutes
Thank you for
over
the
30
bits.
years ago.
Thank you.
We appreciate that you honor these rights today by hearing from Maureen's family. It has genuinely been one of the greatest honors to serve Maureen Hunsaker's family for the past 20 years. We have gone to dozens and dozens of court hearings together. I was able to meet Maureen's mother, Betty, who is a force to be reckoned with, and other family members who attended every single hearing and met every obligation of a demanding criminal justice system. Sadly and unfortunately, Betty and Maureen's stepfather, Rod, died before they received justice for Maureen's brutal murder. Maureen's son, Matt, who you will hear from today, and he is online and he's listened to every word, and I have kept in regular contact. We've even shared life events with each other on social media and updates unrelated to this case or Mr. Menzies. I've gotten to know Maureen Hunsaker. She was cherished, devoted, kind. She was a joyful mother, daughter, wife, sister, aunt, and friend. I wish I had met her. I wish I had heard her laugh, seen love in her eyes, and watched her dote on her 3 young children. I look forward to you getting to know Maureen through the memories and accounts of those who will speak to you today. I want to take a few minutes and talk about some really important words and set the stage for Maureen's family as they plead of you, 5 distinguished board members, to consider these words in this most important and solemn decision. Mercy, compassion, justice, humanity. These were all words uttered by defense counsel during this hearing and undoubtedly will be the cornerstone of their closing arguments to the board today. For nearly 4 decades, this Hunsaker family and Maureen's friends have lived not just with grief, but with the weight of relentless legal delay, a system that too often talks of mercy while deferring justice. Today, I speak to you about mercy, but not the kind that is asked for by Mr. Menzies and his attorneys. True mercy is not the avoidance of consequence. Mercy is the relief of unbearable suffering. Mercy is allowing a family, this family, of a murdered young mother, Maureen, to finally rest, to wake up on September 6th, knowing that her killer no longer has a legal voice louder than hers. This family has lived through days of trial, appeal after appeal after appeal, hearing after hearing, forced to relive the most horrifying details of what was done to Maureen. Every time Ralph Menzies files another motion or is granted a further review, he is given attention and space that Maureen never had. Her children, robbed of their mother's love and guidance, have waited patiently while the system allowed her killer to linger in legal limbo, well-fed, well-sheltered, and alive. That is not mercy. That is injustice with a polite face. The only compassionate, conclusive mercy available now is this: to finally carry out this sentence that the jury and judge lawfully and unanimously decided 37 years ago, to give her family the one thing they've never had: an end, closure, silence, peace. Ralph Menzies has lived a full life of due process. He has had more hearings, appeals, and evaluations than Maureen ever had birthdays. If mercy is to mean anything in this world, it must be extended to the people who still carry the scars of what was done. Not just to the man, who inflicted them. The defense asks you to consider compassion, justice, and humanity for Ralph Menzies. But where was the compassion when he tied this young mother to a tree, a young Maureen to a tree, strangled her, and slit her throat, leaving her lifeless and alone in a canyon? Where was the justice when her children cried for her at night, night after night? Where was the humanity when he treated her as disposable? Compassion must be paired with accountability to have any real meaning. Justice without consequence feels like a betrayal. Humanity loses its meaning when a victim is forgotten. If these words are to carry any weight today, then let them be given not to the man who destroyed life, but to the lives he destroyed. Please, we beg you, let your compassion rest with Maureen's children who grew up without their mother, to her husband who raised these children without a partner. Let your sense of justice be for the promise of fairness to the innocent. And let your humanity recognize that Maureen Hunsaker was human too, before she was reduced to a footnote in Mr. Menzies' legal saga. There is no justice, no compassion, and no humanity in granting mercy to a man who extinguished all three from his victim.
I think he still confesses to this day that he's innocent, professes. Perot, not con. I get my words mixed up sometimes because I'm old. But I think he says he's innocent. Sally Boy.
Before I turn the time
Hey,
over to
love.
Maureen's family, I want to ask you, distinguished board members, to figuratively go somewhere with me. Will you please go with me in your minds about 30 miles from here to Storm Mountain in Big Cottonwood Canyon? Instead of mid-August where it's warm and beautiful, come with me to a cool day in February. Let's stand with Maureen for a minute so she is not alone with her killer, Mr. Menzies. Storm Mountain is a place with rugged rocks, oak, and aspen trees. Most of the trees would have been bare, as would the area, since it was winter. The temperature in Salt Lake on that day, that 23rd day of February, was a medium 52 degrees, but we've all been to the mountains, and we know that it's colder in the canyon by sometimes 10 or more degrees. What were those final hours and moments like for Maureen? What did Menzies say to her? What was Maureen thinking? Was she allowed to plead for mercy? I wish I could ask Dr. Bigler and Dr. Hyde and the other distinguished doctors
I'm in.
what it does to a brain to have 12 straight hours of terror, worry, and unimaginable
with the
fear.
FTR.
We heard Dr. Bigler testify that the brain fires more
Going
than a trillion
again.
neural signals or function.
That's Judge Ponder. I was recording Judge Ponder when Josh sent me this link. And he was not speaking at the moment when I grabbed my computer real fast to start the hearing. And I didn't realize that he was on in the background. But don't worry, I heard him immediately. And I'm turning him off. It'll only take another second, but it's in slow motion. But it'll just take a second for me to grab my computer and turn him off real quick.
Every single
This is number 9 on the court's docket.
What happens to the brain
24
when
CR
every second
7588
for the last 12 hours of Maureen's life was dedicated
versus
to
Little
fear
John.
and doom?
Entries.
Tom Walton for the
For
people.
reference, there are
Good morning, Your Honor.
43,200
Damon
seconds
Green
in a
on
12-hour
behalf of
period.
Mr. Littlejohn. He
That
stands
equates to
my right at
43.2
the podium.
quadrillion seconds
All right,
worth
Mr.
of neural transmissions,
Littlejohn, I've got
all in survival mode
paperwork here
for the last 12 hours
indicating
of Maureen's life.
that you wish
One more moment.
guilty
Did
to
Maureen's
account
brain suffer?
3, a drug
stand there
felony,
with Maureen
3, possession
she is
with
not alone
intent to
in those
distribute a
terrifying moments.
controlled substance, as
We
well
heard
as
from
a
Dr. Hyde
class
when he
5
was describing
felony.
vascular dementia, what the brain experiences when there is a deprivation of blood, oxygen, and glucose to the brain. He described that a person could feel unwell, anxious, distressed, stressed, possibly become unconscious, and to suffer severe hypoxemia. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but it's easy to research hypoxemia, which occurs in cases of strangulation and is considered one of the first steps towards death, where the flow of oxygenated blood is cut off and the brain begins to suffocate at the cellular level, leading to hypoxia, described as low oxygen in the tissues, resulting in brain damage and ultimately death. As uncomfortable as it is, let's stand with Maureen so she is not alone at Storm Mountain in her last few minutes. We know, Maureen's family knows, from crime scene evidence and the condition of Maureen's body, that she was bound to a tree by the hands of the man who sat just a few feet away from us. She wasn't able to escape. She wasn't given the chance to fight for her life. She was given no mercy. We know that from Maureen's body, that she was strangled by her killer, that man, Ralph Leroy Menzies, and that he slit her throat. By this man's hands, this man sitting right in front of you, Maureen's brain was deprived of blood, oxygen, and glucose for enough time for her brain tissue to die, for her to die. What we learned, at least what I learned from the doctors who have testified here and have testified previously, most recently in
Thank
front
you,
of
Monica.
their district court judge,
Thank you,
Matt
thank
Bates,
you.
is that the human brain isn't just an organ. It is the command center of everything we are as humans. Every second, firing more than 1 trillion neurons, neural signals, processing thought, emotions, pain, and memories. While we are alive, those signals never stop. They are the reason we breathe, cry, fight, and hope. When someone is strangled, when Maureen was strangled by Mr. Menzies, that incredible system shuts down violently and irreversibly. Maureen's brain was starved of oxygen and glucose, the two things it needed to survive. These aren't abstract medical terms. This means that as her oxygen was cut off, so was the fuel her brain needed to think, fight, and hope. Her body likely convulsed, her brain in its last moments, struggling desperately to stay alive, firing signals in pure panic while shutting down, one cell at a time. She undoubtedly felt fear. She felt pain. I'm sure the doctors would agree that at least for a while, Maureen unmistakably knew what was happening to her.
I said thank you. Thank
This
you,
was not
Kelly.
a
Thank
quick
you.
and painless death. It was not peaceful. It was slow, brutal, and intimate. This person who did this had to hold a ligature around her neck, probably for minutes, knowing she was alive, knowing she was struggling, knowing he was extinguishing every thought, every memory, and every dream she'd ever had. So when we talk about justice, mercy, or compassion, I ask you to remember what her brain was doing in those final moments. Every neural transmission, every silent scream, her body was begging for that she never got relief. That is the truth of her death. That is knowledge and suffering that Maureen's family and friends carry every day for almost 40 years. And that is why we, those who care for Maureen, are here today, because her voice was cut off. And now her family speaks for her. On behalf of the family of Maureen Hunsaker, I plead with this board to not grant clemency. Let this long delayed sentence be fulfilled, not out of vengeance, but out of mercy for those who have suffered quietly for 40 years. You are undoubtedly, and I appreciate Board Chair recognizing that this is emotional, and you will undoubtedly feel a lot of emotion today. I want to stress, I've worked with this family for a long time. There's no disrespect or offense meant to this board. What you will hear and probably feel today is desperation, hope, and belief that justice can be served. I want to apologize. Because this was scheduled at a late date, I do have to leave this room, but I will be logging on and listening to every word as the family members go forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Michelle.
A couple of the family members could not make it because of the date they decided to do it. A couple of important family members. Important.
The chair thing. Hello, I'm Carol Summer. Maureen Hunsaker's older sister. This is too hard. Listening to the defense yesterday, saying that she felt no trauma.
Terry Ham, that's who I'm thinking about right now. Doesn't that sound like Terry? I know, we've never heard Terry speak. Right, Terry? We've never heard Terry speak. But that's who I'm hearing right now with her four sisters. Hi, Moen.
Made me mad. Kidnapped for 3 days. Calling home for 3 days. Saying he's gonna let me come home. He's gonna let me come home. Letting Jim and my mother hear those words, giving them hope. That never happened. He never intended for her to go home. He never intended for her to go home. Making promises to her. Oh, do what I say and I'll let you go home. Never happened. She called home multiple times in those 3 days. But it didn't mean anything to him. It didn't mean anything to Mr. Menzies because he never intended for her to go home. To her husband, her children, my mother, and the rest of my family. Taking her up to Storm Mountain, one of the places that she loved the most, to murder her. Tell me that's not trauma. Tell me that fear is not trauma. Tell me that fear is not trauma. Telling me that she didn't have fear as she was kidnapped from her work. Fear as she was held for 3 days. Fear as they drove up to Storm Mountain. Fear as he tied her to a tree. As he came towards her with a knife. Fear as he slit her throat. Maureen didn't deserve that kind of death. When we got the phone call that she was murdered, seeing the pain in my family's face, feeling their pain, you can't describe that kind of pain. It was something any family should never, ever have to go through or feel. My little sister was someone I was supposed to grow old with, raise our children together, watch our grandbabies grow. I didn't get to do that.
It's your birthday.
You will honestly never know her fear.
Mary has been with me since almost the first episode. I mean, for so long, through thick and thin, through high and low. Mary, thank you, and happy birthday. I hope you have the best birthday.
Her pain, or her hope of going home to her young children, or to Jim, or my mom, or the rest of us. We only know what he did to her. We only know she would have done anything so she could be able to go home to her husband. We are talking about our grief, but what needs to be said is she was a wife, she was a mother, she was a sister, she was a daughter. A person who gave herself to her family and her community without a thought or care. That's the way she was. She was beautiful and special in every way. Menzies not only took Maureen from us that day, he stole her away from us, took away happiness and joy of her in our lives. He took that away from my children as well as her children. They were young, too young to remember her. My babies were 5, 4, and 6. They don't know her other than what she's heard from us. They would love to have known her. We will never know what a beautiful and caring person she was. You will never know what a beautiful, caring person she was. Her death has fractured my life and that of my family. He did not just take away my mom, as he did not just take away her, he took my mom from me. She was never the same. For years, she was a different person who closed herself off emotionally from me. I know that it wasn't her way of healing from what he did. She was, up until her death, trying to get justice for Maureen. It was painful not to see her smile. It was smile like she used to, or hold me with her heart. There comes a time in your life, no matter the circumstances, where you can choose to be good or evil. You can choose who you are, Menzies, and you chose to be pure evil. 39 years is too long for this family to get justice, to go through hell. Every time we have to see him on the news, it's you're tearing that wound apart. You're opening all those memories.
You know how we know he knows what he did? Because we're not allowed to hear them. We are not allowed to hear them. But he's made some jail calls recently that show he is of complete sound mind and body and understands exactly what's going on right now. Nothing's wrong with him mentally. We know this because of the jail calls.
We need this justice, and we need closure. We need to know that it's finally, I need to watch my nephew, my niece, my other nephew. I need to see them heal after 39 years. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Amber Summer.
Good morning. My name is Amber Summer. Maureen Hunsaker was my aunt. I was only about 5 years old when my aunt was murdered. I watched my family go through hell. I didn't understand it at the time, but now I do. I still watch my family go through hell every time he goes to court, every time he drags our family through this mess. Every year he goes to court, he gets shown on the news, and people ask questions. How do you answer the questions that they have? Now that I'm older, I understand and feel the same pain, knowing I have no real memories of my aunt, besides her murder and what has gone through the last 39 years. I hear my family talk about her and what a beautiful soul she was. I wish we still had her here so I could know that for myself. I apologize. I never really got to know my cousins through all of this. I would have loved to. The only time we got together was at our annual Christmas parties. The few times that we were together besides that, it seemed as though my grandmother favored my cousins, which felt unfair and hurtful. I couldn't understand it. As I get older, I understand more and realize it was my grandma's way of protecting my aunt when she was unable to protect her life. I feel like my family can finally begin to heal when this is complete and his sentence is carried out and justice is served for what he did. I can't speak for all of my family. I just know that for myself, I don't want Menzies executed out of vengeance, but out of justice. I just want my family to heal and to have peace knowing what he originally was sentenced with has been completed. For my grandma, my cousins, my uncle, my mom. After 39 years, my family needs closure from this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's fair. That's
Michael,
absolutely fair and right.
My name is Michael Seiss, and I'm Maureen's oldest brother. I had a prepared statement to read, but I don't think I can even touch the last three ladies that have stood up here and talked to you. This horror show must stop. This family needs to heal. And every time you guys rip the scab off, it gets more painful and more difficult. So do the right thing and stop this show. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Hunsaker.
Is it okay if I stand? Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be here today. I've never spoken publicly about this case. And this will be the only time I give this man a part of my voice or attention. I knew Maureen Hunsaker. She was my mother. The woman my father loved and built a family with. She taught me lessons no one else could. Lessons that I still live by today. The defense says that no matter what punishment, Maureen will not come back. Isn't that right? She won't. But I will add this. No matter how well he may have cooperated with the captain, no matter how polite he was in class, no matter if he's been a model inmate, he can never undo what he's done. Because of him, that mother should be grandmother, great grandmother by now, sister, aunt, daughter, and wife will never again have the chance to love or to be loved. That is permanent. That is final. And it's a sentence far greater than this court has delivered. This court must ensure that the consequences of his choice remain as permanent as the loss he caused. I was just a child when Ralph Menzies took her life. Too young to understand the full weight of what that meant. My little sister and little brother were even younger. They never truly knew their mother. And now generations later, they're grandchildren and great-grandchildren who will never have the chance. My older brother, knew our mother well. As the oldest, he felt the full weight of losing her. And he has carried that grief every single day. But for 40 years, he has carried something else as well. The relentless burden of a justice system that has chosen delay over action, litigation over punishment. Instead of allowing him to live his life, this court has forced him to keep fighting the same fight for 4 decades, nearly. His life has been spent in a courtroom battle that should have ended long ago. I'm not here to tell you how his actions changed my life or the lives of so many, because focusing on that would give him more power than he deserves. In fact, I believe it might even give him a sick kind of joy to know that decades later, he's still having an effect on our lives. I do not want to give him that satisfaction. Instead, I'm here as a father. And as a father, I've learned something important. Follow through on consequences, good or bad, is the only way humanity truly learns. I set expectations. My son's actions earn a result. Good actions bring reward. Bad actions bring discipline. It's hard. I don't enjoy punishing my sons. In fact, I cry at night when they hurt. But if I don't follow through, they cannot grow into responsible, productive people. They won't learn to care for themselves or for other people they love. And the other children watching won't learn that actions matter. I have not spent my life focused on the existence of Ralph Menzies. He was sentenced to die nearly 40 years ago, and I trusted the justice system of the United States of America. I believed that actions have consequences, that his consequence had been set. In my mind, this man was already gone. Yet here we are. Nearly 4 decades, this court has allowed delays, appeals, and excuses that fail not only the living, but the generations yet to come. We are not here to debate his innocence. We're not here to relitigate facts. We are here for one purpose, to decide whether the sentence, the consequence, set forth nearly 40 years ago will be carried out. As a parent, I can change how I handle future situations. But I cannot erase a consequence I've already handed down without undermining my authority. If I waver, I teach my children they can argue, stall, and escape accountability. And that is exactly the precedence this court is setting for society. That punishment is negotiable, even decades after it's been decided. We cannot protect, feed, house, and even entertain evil for a lifetime and call that justice. That is not compassion, it is weakness. And it endangers the fabric of our society. This is not the time or place to debate the death penalty. That decision was made long ago. Debate the law in the halls of politics if you wish. But in this case, justice has already been decided. So I ask this court, follow through with the punishment that was set nearly 4 decades ago. Show our society that actions have consequences, and that if you choose to destroy lives, those consequences will be severe. For the good of our society, our justice system, and the future of this nation, I ask you to do the hard thing. End a situation that never should have been prolonged for 4 decades. Punish the evil so it cannot continue to harm. Send a message that justice is real, justice is firm, and justice will be carried out. This is bigger than me. Bigger than my family. It's bigger than our grief. The decision you make today will set the tone for future cases. And if you fail to follow through, you give every criminal, large or small, a reason to expect the same mercy. And that is how justice systems crumble. Let us finish this case. Let us move forward. I am ready. My family is ready. And it is long past time for this court to be ready as well.
Whew. You think he was the best one that came up? No, you got nothing. Later on, you're going to hear someone way better. Right, Josh? But for now, that was heavy. So we need a break. We need to pause the heavy. Here we go, guys. So, Bill, I got a question for you. You said which one was the defendant, and I pointed to her right away, which I really meant him too. They're defendants. I say that because they are fighting so hard right now to keep him alive. So, how do you feel about defense attorneys right now?
They see the same penalty he's gotten. I even talked with Judge Fleischer about defense lawyers. I don't know how they can do it. I don't know how they sleep at night.
I can logic it out. They're just looking at the law and they're just fighting the law, and that's their job. The crimes don't matter. The people don't matter. Their job is to look at the law and go with the law. Same as the judge. Same as the prosecutors, really. But, man.
Yeah, you can find another job. I couldn't do that work.
I wouldn't want firing squad, Kelly. I just feel like it would hurt.
Yeah, there's I think South Carolina just start back up the firing squad?
That's crazy. I just feel like that would be painful. I would want them to, knock me out first. Right? I mean, they can knock me out first and then do what they have to do.
Yep. There's a good movie called Law Abiding Citizen, and they talk a lot about that.
So, Bill, we've missed you so much. You know that.
Oh, I've been here. I've been watching every show. The problem is you're putting out like 100 videos a day. I can't get done watching your videos long enough to do something on my own.
Don't blame me.
Yeah.
Don't blame me. You have to blame Emily in this situation. Clearly,
No,
just kidding, Emily.
So Emily's problem is she decided to be a grandmother this year, and so that doing a live for 3 or 4 hours a day became, hey, do we do the live or do we acknowledge we have a grandchild? And that grandchild decided to win. And so she's learning to be grandmother so that our daughter can go back to work. And so that's always going to win.
I hear work is overrated. I don't know, though. I don't know. I wouldn't know personally.
Well, tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yep. So,
Me and a friend of mine from South Carolina put in a good call for you on that job.
Oh, thank you. I know that people have already reached out to my personal life people. Anyway, Bill, you got to do me a favor, and I'm putting you on the spot. It's going to be hard for you. You got to insult Lena only like you do. She needs it. Thank you, Jude.
Got to insult Lena's.
We miss your insults to Lena's. Lena's misses your insults.
I could just simply wave an American flag for her. I can tell you one thing that Lena's did, and she doesn't even know she aggravated me with it. So the other day I was at work, and work was just giving me hell, and I had pre-recorded the live, and so the live was just playing and playing and playing, and she sends me a message, hey, are you near a computer? I'm like, what do you want? And she's like, oh, this trial is really boring. I'm like, problem solved. I told my 17-year-old I just walked in the room and ended the live right then. Like, problem solved.
I'm almost 99.9999999% of the comments I get are wonderful, guys. They really are. But every once in a while, I feel like closing the live down. I just feel like that's it. I'm done. I'm closing this live down. You guys made me pull the car over.
Well, what Lena does so good is she's so great at being supportive, but she's also so great at being realistic.
Yep.
And I can't deal with realism. Sometimes I can't deal with it. And sometimes she's like, hey, you could put in more effort if you really wanted this. I'm like,
Fozzie always says that to me. I'm not working hard enough. But my mods are the ones that get me the hardest with the slightest little thing that happens in my stream. They're like, I can't hear anything. The sound is bad. The lighting's bad. Your hair is bad. Thank you for pointing that out to every single person in the world.
Yeah, that's why we love them so much.
That is why, though. That's what we need. All right, guys, we're going to go back into the sad now. You guys ready? Bill, thanks for popping in. Stay for the whole stream and say whatever you want.
I'm here.
All right, here we go.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't know it's still on camera.
Jim Hunsaker.
Name's Jim Hunsaker, Maureen's husband. Sorry about that. I want you to know, I love that woman with every inch of my body, soul, mind, everything.
Hey, real quick, who did he kill?
Man does not deserve
Oh, unalive is the word.
seconds more to live. Not at all. What I've seen my family go through is total hell. They've gone through total hell going for almost 40 years. I was involved in it quite a bit, the first little bit. Then I could not bear, because I could see where it was going. Up to today is where it was going. Maureen has 4 kids, 3 natural. That was hers before I got married to her. After this, I adopted him. The best thing I ever did. Nick was 17 months old. 17. Selling diapers. Barely off the bottle. Dana, 6 months old. 6. This guy robbed Maureen of raising her daughter and her sons. Chris, he's mine from a previous marriage, but very well as her own child. She treated him no less than her own, raised him as his own, as her own. And this is just the kids, this is the one generation that she produced that she won't be able to see the happiness that she created. Then these fine kids give her 14 grandkids. 14 that she'll never, ever get to see, play with, help raise. None of that. Go to Christmas parties with, go to birthday parties with, see them graduate. And out of this, these 14 children, the oldest ones, has given her 4 great grandkids. What a legacy this would have been for her to be around and have the fun and enjoyment that it brings. As far as this dementia thing he's trying to pull off, It's a bunch of crock. Sure, the experts showed brain images and everything else that he does have dementia. I got dementia. I mean, everybody, when they get older, gets dementia. And Googling it, it says depression causes a lot of the same symptoms. Well, a pill will take that. And they're saying that he's got worse. Where's the proof he's got worse? There is no proof. There is no more tests been done. All they do is go out there and watch him. Well, he's been the biggest show person that's ever been for 40 years. He's put on this major show. He's fully aware of what he did, fully aware that he killed my wife and the loving mother, grandmother, and great grandmother. I'm not a good public speaker. There's lots more.
You're fine, sir. You're fine.
Emotionally, I cannot do it. But I will tell you this, if you don't sentence him to death, it'll be on all your heads. I'm sorry. That's my feeling. Because he has been so brutal, not only to Maureen, but for me, my family, and anybody else that has to put up with him. They tell you he's a model prisoner. This is where his life is here. Why not? Why not put up with being good? You guys put him out in public. Well, you see what happened out there? No, he gets himself back into prison where he's comfortable, where that's his normal life. So are you punishing him? No. You are not punishing him one day that he's here. Punish him. Sentence him to the firing squad. It has to be done. I beg you. For me, my family, let's put this to rest so we can move on, please. Thank you.
So, Bill, you're in a similar situation, but just friends, not family.
Okay, I think I'm off mute. So in the little community I grew up in, Bonifay, had to have been in the 2005 to 2010 range. In fact, I can pull it up real quick.
It said 2010. He's been there since 2010.
So right before Christmas, a local guy, he worked at a local junkyard, lived at the junkyard, kind of a junkie, homeless guy. He would always go to the store to get his beer at the end of the day, get his cigarettes, and he convinced the cashier, who was a very close family friend. We went to church with her family. I remember holding this kid when she was a little baby. He convinced her to give him a ride to give his kids Christmas gifts. And then he proceeded to kidnap her, and they found her remains in her trunk burning in a field. And he of course, he went to jail. He was born again, converted, and now he's the greatest person ever. And luckily, the state of Florida still put him on death row for it. And so there he sits.
But he's been there for 15 years. So the family has been trying for 15 years to get closure, and he's just sitting there still alive.
Well, the wonderful thing about this family is they forgive him. I'm just saying they forgive him. They've moved on. He's not a part of their world. I'm just saying they're very good. They're real good people. People like me need the closure. People like me want to see him burn. Me, I'd want to see him shot with BB guns till he's no more. I want it to be as painful as possible.
Yep, slow.
But I remember she was a kid to us, so she was. Heck, she couldn't have been no more than 20, 25 whenever she passed away. But whenever the community came together, it came to look for her, it was an emotional moment. It was a religious moment for the whole community because it's a small farming community, and all of a sudden someone comes up missing. But cashier is a tough job.
True story, especially at night.
Yeah.
Bobby, was it family or was it friends? Are they still on death row?
Bobby's got, yep. So what I was asking, I was asking Nan, does this guy have family support? Does this defendant here have family support in this hearing?
I'm struggling very hard to remember if he does or does not.
Well, no, that's good. If he does have family support, I want to know that it's very minimal. So that's good.
Nothing stands out. Like, I know I hear from the her family today, but Josh, do you know if he has anybody here for him? I just can't remember. So probably not.
And that was a problem I had in our community, was whenever this trial was going on, it seemed like every local preacher wanted his 5 minutes of fame to go and, oh, I visited with him, and oh, I helped him, discover Jesus. I helped him repent of everything, and now he's a great person. We should minimize his penalty for it. And I kept saying, y'all should have reached out to him 20 years ago, not after he murdered someone.
It's time to move on to the next one. We had the husband, we had aunts, we had the niece. I don't know who's next, but it's the son that we're waiting for.
Dana Stinson.
So my name is Dana Stinson. My maiden name is Dana Hunsaker. Maureen was my mother, as stated by multiple people. I was only 6 months old when she was murdered. In 8 short days, I will be turning 40. And I will live another year without my mother. I wish I could be here today and tell you what an amazing person she was. Instead, I have to talk about other things because the opportunity to get to know her was taken from me. I can only tell you what other people tell me about her because I don't have any memories. All of my memories of my mother are court cases and the murder herself and what I see on the news. There is no single photo of us where I can look at and say that she truly loved me. There is a diary where she talks about being worried about bills and being able to pay them and what she's going to do to take care of us. She writes about her worries. As a mother myself, I know this is how she loved me. One of my oldest memories that I can remember from when I was younger, I don't remember my exact age. I was sitting in my grandparents' kitchen and I remember the news coming on. My father and my grandparents started to argue about something, I don't know what. And the news started to talk about the case, and Menzies' photo came on. And I remember turning around and asking what was going on and being told to just turn around and eat my dinner. Christmas was always especially hard for me because instead of getting to tell her all of the things I wanted and being super excited, I would spend the nights praying that instead of presents that year. So I just wanted a hug from her and to be able to hear her say that she loved me. Everyone says that when someone is gone, you miss the simple things, and I would just give so much just to have one thing. Sorry. The things that I got instead of a mother was fear, anxiety, guilt, and sadness, and so much more. I've always been terrified of being physically alone, especially at night. A therapist once told me that it's not the darkness that frightens me, it's not knowing who or what is there. Being outside alone, especially at night, creates panic attacks. Not knowing where my children are at all times terrifies me. If I can't reach them or I can't locate them, I run through all scenarios that could possibly be happening to them, and I start planning my next steps to locate them. To make sure nothing has happened, I go through my list of family that I will need to contact to search for them. I live in constant fear for their lives. At night, I have a reoccurring dream that Menzies is chasing me or someone I love along with me through a forest. We are never strong enough or fast enough to get away. Whoever is running is always pinned to a tree and told you will never win right before he slits our throats. As a child, I would always pile my stuffed animals and dolls around me, thinking that if someone finds me while I'm sleeping, they will never know I'm there. At night, because of my fear of being alone in the dark, I would run through a house, turning lights on and off as I go, making it from one end to the other to stay in the light. To this day, in the dark, I have to repeat to myself that I'm fine and nothing is there. The guilt that I carry and I feel and think about often is, would my mother still be here if I wasn't born? Would she have been able to work a different job if I hadn't been there? Everyone tells me I look so much like my mom, and I used to feel like that was a huge burden and a horrible thing. I just felt like my presence made everybody sad because they would look at me and see her, but she's not here. She has missed everything that made me who I am today. The greatest thing I feel like she missed is I didn't get to have her there through my children's birth. To have her there and see her hold my children would have been something that I can only dream of. My children will never know their grandmother, and I have no memories I can share with them except my pain. I'll never be able to call her when I'm having a bad day. I'll never hear her say that she's proud of me and that I'll be okay. And I live with a constant question of, am I good enough for her? I struggle with relationships and bonding with people. When I start feeling like I'm getting close to people, I run, and I know it hurts them, but I'm terrified of something happening to them and getting more hurt in the process. I know I'm letting them down and myself. And I tell myself I'm saving myself in the process. When I try to reach out and apologize for my actions, it always comes out wrong. How do you tell people that you are sorry? You have a huge hole inside you and you don't want to burden them with your problems. Today, my family is here before you as my mother's voice, and to allow you to hear ours, to look you in the eyes and remind you of what one decision, as proved by your predecessors, can do. We bear our hearts and souls before you. The last time Mr. Menzies came before a board such as this, he was granted his freedom. This decision cost my mother her life and cost our family so much more. We lost a wife, a daughter, a sister, a mother, and a grandmother. Some lost a friend. My whole world was turned upside down and I was left with a massive hole. We're asking today that you see the games that have been played for years, my whole life actually, and not be fooled, and to let justice finally be carried out. I recently read a book by John Grisham called The Guardians, and they constantly repeat a phrase saying justice delayed is justice denied. The family should never be told that justice will be served for only the exact same system to be played the way it is. We have suffered long enough and been traumatized enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Hunsaker.
I'm going to stand, please. My name is Nicholas Hunsaker. I am the youngest son of Marion Hunsaker. I was 18 months old when my mom was kidnapped, brutally murdered, over $70. I have no memories of my mom. I have one picture of her and I together. I have one picture. I was robbed of almost 40 years of pictures and memories with my mom. My children, my mom, and memories with my mom. My mom's grandchildren will never know how much their grandmother would have loved them. They too have missed out on so many memories and so many pictures. They'll never get to feel her love. My oldest son, Jacob, very willing to help anyone. My youngest son, Michael, or my middle son, Michael, he's a lot like me when I was growing up, a bit of a wild child. My oldest daughter, Addison, a very talented cheerleader. She's a high school cheerleader now. She probably would have been up there on one of my mom's favorite grandchildren. Because my mother was born on the 28th. Addison was born on the 23rd. We all know what day that is. So I had a horrible thing happen to me on the 23rd. And I had an amazing thing happen to me on the 23rd. Now, my youngest son, Eli, definition of an old soul. Never met someone he didn't want to talk to, and he won't bring up. My youngest daughter, who is named Mariana Zager, very skilled on a horse. Won many competitions at her last horseback riding events. However, their grandma will never get to see any of this because she was taken from them. For almost 40 years now, we have been waiting for justice. And each time we start to get close, something else comes up and it doesn't happen. I am a veteran. I served one combat tour in Iraq. I have seen things that no person should ever see in their life.
Thank you for your service.
I've been here in a hostile area where I never knew if each breath would be my last. I served alongside great people. All of us over there were fighting for the same thing, freedom and justice. If I would have done what this man did to my mother to an enemy combatant, I would be sitting in Fort Leavenworth for war crimes right now. When I came home from my tour, we unloaded the plane. Our family's in the hangar waiting for us, except for my mom. She wasn't there. She would have been the loudest person there cheering for me. She would have given me the biggest hug, which I never got. We go through everything from this trial to the judges not getting us the justice we deserve for almost 40 years. I do not believe for 1 minute that this man has the dementia he claims. I do have post-traumatic stress disorder and a traumatic brain injury. Going by his experts, I have all the same stuff he's got. If I don't put my keys in the exact same place every day, I'll lose.
I don't believe he has dementia. And really, I could be right, I could be wrong, but I don't give a shit if he has dementia. It means absolutely nothing to me, regardless of what they're about to do.
My wife has to tell me numerous times that we have an upcoming event. There's many times where I'll have to ask my wife, even though I know I've already asked her, about an upcoming event we have because I do not know when or where it is. I don't use these as a crutch or try to get out of my responsibilities. I own them, I deal with them. Yes, it is really hard and aggravating at times, but I do what I'm supposed to do. Mr. Menzies took everything from an 18-month-old child. I know this because I see my own children at that age, and their lives revolve around their mother. She is everything to them and me. I can't help but think that this parole board, if they wouldn't have granted him parole in the first place in the 80s, my mother would still be alive today. I know it wasn't the people on the board right now, but it was this board that set him free in the beginning. Justice in this country is supposed to be fair and swift, not take almost half a century. This man has already been granted leniency once before, and we all know what happened when he was granted that. This man is not dumb. He is very smart. He knows how to play the system. He knows what he has to do to stretch it out for a little bit longer. My grandmother never got to see justice that we all asked for here today. It is time for the family to have some closure that we all have been waiting for. It is this board can get us the closure that we need.
So remember, this was like 2 days ago. This hearing that we're watching was like 2 days ago. And 21 days from this hearing is when he's scheduled to be executed. I'm pretty sure. I'm really sure. So the decision they make has got, they're deciding whether to stop that or let it go on. Yes, this is live. So we will get a decision in about 19 days, one way or another. But I don't think it's going to take that long. What we're hoping for is that they don't make a decision until after Tuesday. We hope that they wait at least until after Tuesday. You'll find out why. You will.
In conclusion, I ask that you give me and my family the justice we deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lonnie Stone.
My name is Lonnie Stone. I'm a victim advocate for Utah Crime Victims Legal Clinic. Heidi Estelle is my boss. I have not been involved in this case for nearly as long as most of the people in this room. However, I know the Hunziker family is to love them. And I can only imagine I would feel the same about their matriarch, Maureen Hunziker. Forgive me, I'm a crier. For far too long, this family has been denied what they desire and deserve. And that is not only justice for Maureen, but also closure. Now, when that is finally in sight for them, it has the potential to be derailed by Ralph Menzies asking for the very thing he denied Maureen Hunziker almost 40 years ago, mercy. Throughout the long history of this case, the focus has often been on anything and everything but what it should have been. And that is Maureen Hunziker and the family that she was forced to leave behind. Excuse me. For years and years, as the main family representative, Maureen's oldest son, Nat, has been her advocate and champion, and has done everything he could to try to bring the focus back to the mother he lost as a child. Nat has been present in person at every important proceeding in this case since he was old enough to do so, until today. An unavoidable conflict has kept Nat from being able to be here in person to speak on his mother's behalf with his family. However, that will not prevent him from being the ever-strong voice for his mother, as he will now address the board via WebEx. I implore the board members to focus on the picture of Matt's beautiful mother while he speaks, and to remember that the victim and center of this case is Maureen Hunziker, not Ralph Menzies. She and her family are the victims, honor to whom consideration should be given first and foremost. Thank you. We'll hear from you.
Thank you. What we'll do now is we will take a break to make sure that the electronics and the technology are working. So let's take a 10-minute break at this time.
I'm trying to fast forward this. I don't know how.
As soon as I just turned away for a second, this would happen.
I can't fast forward it. I'm trying.
You can't fast forward it?
No.
I know you can't fast forward it. I can though. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So there's a part 2, and I had to make sure that it was getting down here. I wasn't going to go do the whole thing today. But, oh, here we go, guys. Let's go. This is what we came for, this guy. I can't skip ahead like 30 seconds. So we just gotta, I don't use VLC hardly ever. So we're just going to wait.
I haven't used VLC since we used to download movies.
Yep. Well, you know what I did? I recorded this at double speed because they were going to take the video down before I was able to get it all. So I had to record it at double speed and get it before they took the video down. And when I tried to replay it and hit half speed, it broke. Like it wouldn't work. So the only way to do it is to open VLC and play it through that. All right, I'm going to try to bump it ahead a little bit. There's no like fast forward 10 seconds in VLC. That's the guy. Oh, you got to let it catch up. When you move it, you have to let it catch up to you. Oh, this is painful. This is it. We're just going to talk.
Would you please raise your right hand for me? Do you promise that the testimony you will give will be truthful and accurate?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and put your hand down. Tell us what you would like the board to know.
First off, I want to thank all my family members that are there. Great minds think alike, because pretty much you guys spoke everything that I've written down. So a lot of this is going to be repetitive. But this is not going to be nice and subtle like everybody else has said to the board. This is going to be a little bit more brutal. I don't believe anybody's dropped any F-bombs or anything yet, but you may hear some today. It's kind of ironic that I sit here in 2025 and I have to listen to what's turned out to be yet another competency hearing. At the beginning, Eric, you said, we're not going to have a competency hearing, we're going to have a commutation hearing. But all we did is paraded the same doctors that said the same bullshit that we sat and listened to in November and everything. We're going to come before you. We're going to ask for mercy. But let's talk about what's real here. I emailed the Board of Pardons asking them to specifically not schedule this hearing during a small window of time. And I believe even Eric brought up a good point, so Lindsay could be there, that let's adjust these times a little bit, or the fact that we have on their side something going on, but disregard that. Let's disregard all that, because it's to suit the board's purpose on what's best for them, apparently. So I am very disappointed, and I know that Lindsay's listening at home as well, and I am sorry that you're not there with your team, because let's be real, that's an amazing defense team sitting there that I have a lot of respect for. I would have loved to have been there in person, but you didn't show me any mercy. I have to go to work to support my family, and you guys went ahead and scheduled it, and I even begged you not to. This board's predecessors back in the 80s granted Menzies mercy. What'd you do back then, Ralph? Wasn't it that you shot a guy's arm off, robbed some other stores? That's just a long list of stuff that you have done in your life, and it always revolves back to show me some mercy. My family, unfortunately, doesn't get mercy. The Board of Pardons inherited the blood that's on the prior board's hands, and it's now on your hands, where they're asking you, give him mercy again. You guys didn't have to grant him a commutation hearing. There's no law that states he is rightfully so. So you're going to put myself and my family through hell again by making me and my family come and beg you to not show him mercy. Heidi did an amazing job. I'm 500 miles away from my family, my friends, and everybody. I'm by myself, emotionally upset, listening to how Heidi critiqued everything in detail, and she did an amazing job. That woman is God sent to us. I'm going to recap some of the things. You guys didn't have to grant him a commutation hearing. You choose to do this, and choosing to do so put my family and myself through hell. But this time we get to come in and we get to listen to how poor picked on Ralph has had a great life in prison, hasn't done anything wrong. He's a model citizen. But let's talk about what he did do. He took my mom to the mountains, as been described before, after he robbed a gas station. And yeah, you've heard different amounts of money, but it was less than $200 in cash and some cigarettes. He tied my mom to a tree. He strangled her. I believe with an extension cord, to be exact, until she was unconscious. And then he unmercifully took a knife out and slit her throat from ear to ear. Did that piece of shit show my mom any mercy? I've gone up to Storm Mountain many times. Walked those meadows, walked that area. Hey, Ralph, do you remember that there's 2 kids that seen you walk across that meadow with my mom? I've gone and sat in that very spot myself and looked. I watched as the years have transpired up there. They seen you walk across that meadow with my mom. Did you intend to give her mercy? Were you just going to let her go after you got her up there? And like I want to remind everybody, this isn't one of those things where I have to be soft and cuddly like a courtroom in front of a judge. Nobody can throw me into jail today for contempt. Nobody can do anything to me. I'm 500 miles away. I wasn't given that respect to be in there today. So I get to be brutal. I get to say how it is. And I get to be angry. 40 years. My little sister's 40 years old in a few weeks. Let me remind everybody one other thing. My brother, Nick, who just spoke, all he wants for his birthday this year is to watch you get shot. And I'm begging this board, as sadly it is, to give my brother the one thing for his birthday that he deserves this year is to watch you be shot. What is mercy? Because again, that's what we're here doing, right? We're trying to deal with Ralph Menzies asking for mercy. Ralph, have you admitted that you killed my mom? So what are you really asking for mercy for? Are you asking for mercy from a crime that you're saying you didn't commit? Maybe we would have been in a different situation had you been man enough to come before the board and say, yeah, I did it. The evidence shows it. My mom's, her stuff was at my apartment. But, you don't have that. You're just going to sit there like you've done for the last year in a chair, wheelchair, my walker, my oxygen. It's just sad. Mercy, compassion, or forgiveness shown towards someone who is within one's power to punish or harm. Mercy, charity, clemency, grace, leniency, a mean of disposition to show kindness or compassion. You guys have heard from multiple people today. This man didn't show my mom nothing. He's been a career criminal. He's been a waste. Like I said, he doesn't even have the decency to admit that what he did. Who did it, Ralph? You still want to say Troy did it? Or did we give up on that, long time ago?
Who did it,
Troy,
Ralph?
do it. You did it. A couple things I want to point out. The first doctor that testified for the defense is retired. How long has he been retired? And being retired, this man doesn't have the obligation to give an ethically correct statement. He's giving a paid statement. The defense paid him to say what he has said, and he is not bound by no medical boards. He's retired. He even testified that he's currently living in California. So again, he's a retired doctor that we pulled off the shelf to pay him to say what we wanted to say. And again, Eric, remember, there's no disrespect for you guys. I respect your guys' defense, and we've been there. This has turned into a competency hearing. Let's go back to this other correction officer. Unfortunately, when he testified, I only caught bits and pieces of it because I was traveling. But if I remember right, he said he retired in 2005. That's 20 years ago. And again, maybe I'm wrong. This is only going by what I heard. He's coming in to testify about things that happened with Menzies years ago, right? He ran into him as a Lehigh officer over and over. So Ralph is a career criminal. I'm not going to go over the fact that we've all talked about the phone calls, protective order, the phone calls. Judge Bates listened to him. This board's going to listen to him. The doctor spoke on his opinion of him. I just want to throw out this comment. Who did you call yesterday, Ralph, when you found out Judge Bates denied your motion? Did you call your family?
I want to know.
Did you call everybody? Oh my God, they're going to shoot me. The same thing you constantly say, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me. Well, I didn't get to call my mom. That's one thing we all know for a fact. I couldn't call her and say, hey, great job, Mom. I couldn't even go over to the cemetery because I'm out of work. This man has had every opportunity in every court in this country to review his case. Not one court in the state has ever overturned his conviction. Not one court in this country has ever overturned his conviction. But now he's begging you 5 people and trying to convince you to disregard the 40 years of fighting in court system to change this whole system, the whole process, the very system that my brother went and fought to protect. He's asking you guys to say all those educated lawyers, judges, Supreme Court justices, you know what? We're gonna take this little small thing. They don't matter. We're gonna ask you guys, please, just give me another chance. Let me have my turn. I'm so sorry, you know. But again, he hasn't said he's sorry. I'm not gonna go back about all this deep trauma my Aunt Carol talked about. But this man, he caused some serious trauma. And yeah, you can sit there and smirk. I've seen you even turn back and look at one of my brothers talking. But Ralph, we know you don't have dementia. You're an educated man. You got what was it? Just one test short of a paralegal degree. I know what dementia is. I cared for both my grandma and my grandpa. I was in the very house when my grandma took her last breath, the very home
Bill, I learned dementia on your stream.
that she took me in to take care of after my mom died. My grandma never forgot what had happened to her. My grandma never, even to her dying day. And the dementia, the Alzheimer's, all the things, she knew exactly what had happened. This man had taken her daughter and she wanted justice served. So I'm at peace. I really am at peace. Am I pissed off? Oh God, I'm pissed off. But my grandma was never at peace. My grandma didn't get to see justice served. I'm going to give you a little bit of story line here. February 24th, 1986. I don't know how many people are behind the lawyers and everybody. Where was everybody on February 24th, 1986? Well, I was in a little house at 4887 South, 4900 West in Kearns. I'd woken up.
Roller skating rink, I think.
It's time for me to go to school. I'll walk out. My house has got police, family. I'm 10 years old. What in the fuck is going on? I get taken into my room. I'm told that last night when my mom was supposed to get off work, that my dad went to pick her up and there was a cop there. I was told my mom was kidnapped and that she called in the middle of the night. And the guy that had her said he was going to release her. It's just like Heidi said, I'm 10 years old. Okay, this guy's going to let my mom go. Take her, drop her off, guys. On the way to Dugway, on the way to Dale, drop her off anywhere. Pull over the side of the road. Nobody had cell phones back then. She could have walked 5 miles, got help, came home, went back to her life. She would have been traumatized. But he didn't do that. February 26th, after a whole day of sitting around, not wondering what's going on, where's my mom, when's she coming home? I went to school that day. I had 2 police officers follow me in an unmarked car while I walked to school with some friends. I had 2 police officers with me all day long at school. I was in 5th grade. My teacher was Kay Johnson. Everybody at that school knew what was going on. In 1986, murders were the top stories. I went home that day after school, after being the spectacle of everybody looking at, oh, whoa. And I remember, I believe my family gave us an interview on live TV or something. And, well, you know, we live in a religious state, and of course, everybody in the wards bringing all the food you can imagine and everything. Later that evening, I knocked on the door in the carport. I distinctively remember that knock. We had an old broken down white van in the carport. I remember 2 officers came and they took my dad outside, and I hear a loud bang. I would show you what the bang sound like right now, but I'm not going to go over and hit my truck. I just want you to picture this. I'm 10 years old inside a house and I hear a bang and I hear a yell. What do you think I realized? My mom's dead. I'm 10 years old. I just found out that my mom was murdered. She was killed by that piece of crap sitting in that old jumpsuit right in front of you right now. The very guy that's begging for mercy. I'm 50 years old. I've been divorced twice. I have 4 amazing kids. One of them is sitting in that courtroom right now, taking my place. He is the proud, amazing father of my mom's first great grandchild. February 25th, 1986, my life was shattered. It was destroyed. I'm 10 years old. As you heard from Jim, my dad, I spent 8 years being my mom's pride and joy. I could do nothing wrong in the sense of when I did do something wrong and my mom yelled at me and punished me, I called my grandma. Her number was 801-966-1841. I knew that number by heart because every time my mom got mad at me, I called my grandma and I tattled on my mom. And then my grandma would say, "Give the phone to your mom." And then I would run because I knew my ass was in trouble. So that was 1986. February 28th, 1986. Does anybody know where they were at that day? Half that courtroom does.
The roller
We
skating
were at a
rink, I
viewing
think.
in the McDougal Funeral Home in West Valley. It was my mom's birthday. We got to have the viewing of my mom on her birthday. She was supposed to turn 27 years old that day. Instead, we had a viewing that lasted for 5 hours. I had school teachers come see me. I had friends, family, my mom's friends, everybody. I remember Richard Calloway was there, Kathy Walmsley. I remember all those people. They were all there. Miss Lucas, she came in. I spent that night at McDougal Funeral Home greeting people. People walked by, told me they were sorry, and how angry and hurt they were. I was 10 years old. I haven't mentioned that multiple times. My sister was 5, Nick was a year and a half. We spent my mom's birthday in a funeral home from a guy that showed her no mercy. The same stuff that he's asking you guys. My mom was amazing, and all she was trying to do was support her family. Let me share some of the names of the people that are going through trauma that are affected by that man in the orange jumpsuit right in front of you. There's me. My name's Matt. There's Shay. She's at home watching this on the internet. Colby.
Hi, Tina.
Morgan. Our beautiful brand new grandbaby. My grandbaby. There's Jordan. There's Asen. There's Hayden. There's Dana. There's Avia. There's AJ. There's Chris. His family. There's Nick. Brandy, Jake, Mikey, Addison, Eli, and Mari. There's my grandma and my grandpa. Those are all people that his trauma, or the trauma that he was caused. That's 20 people that this man destroyed their life at a minimum that I'm going to talk about. Over $200 and some cigarettes. Ralph, you don't even have the balls to say it, but you did it so you didn't go back to prison. But lo and behold, what happened? Your dumbass did a minor traffic violation and got pulled over, and you got busted. A minor traffic violation.
I love this guy.
This man gets to talk to his family. And all those phone conversations that are protected by law, he gets to call them. He gets to have conversations with them. I don't know what these phone calls are about, but there must be something in there that's nobody wants to know about. Any of his family, which I still can't understand why you would call and talk to some random murderer. But let me tell this board what I get to do. I get to go over in West Valley, Valley View Memorial Park. I get to take flowers there. I get to sit on a bench that we put right underneath a tree. That's where I get to go talk to my mom. That's where I find my peace with that. My grandma's buried on the other side of the tree. My grandpa's there. I bought 2 plots, just one row over and down a little bit. So hopefully when I pass away, my kids will get to come there and they'll get to see the whole family. They'll get to hit us all at once. To see me and whatnot. That's where I get to go to spend the time with my mom. That's where I get to talk to her. That's where I get to cry. That's where I get to take my grandbaby to meet grandma for the first time. What do we say, Colby? 10, 15, 20 years? That's when we get to explain to the new little princess what happened to her grandma. Great grandma, excuse me. So then the legacy goes on. So this doesn't end. This does not end. This will never end, because it'll always be foreshadowed that somebody's grandma was murdered or my mom was murdered. I fortunately got to take care of my grandma until she passed away. She was like a mother to me. She loved me and would do anything for me, and I would do anything for her. And that's one of the reasons why I still fight to this day for the justice for my mom, because that's what my grandma wanted. My grandma wanted this man executed. Let's talk a little bit about this grandma, Grandma Betty. My grandma had to bury her youngest daughter from a brutal murder. And again, this man had the balls.
Josh, thank you so much. Thank you.
And we've heard about the circumstances and the factors. He took her from a gasomat on 40th West and 4700 South, which I live currently about a mile away from, to a house a little bit about 2 miles away from there. Gave my mom a phone call, or gave my dad a phone call, took her up to the canyon, brutally murdered her. This destroyed my grandma. This changed her forever, as you heard from my Aunt Carol.
Bill, thank you. Woo.
Can any of you imagine burying one of your children after having someone slit her throat? Do you realize the efforts that go into this whole factor? We were notified Tuesday night about what happened. Immediately, we have to start planning a funeral and a viewing. And we're talking to the medical examiner and the doctors and all the people that have got to get this ready. Do you know that my grandmother had to go look for a specific dress that was high enough on the neckline? And I know y'all can see me, that would cover my mom's throat. Because, and though I've never seen this, it was a pretty brutal cut. They did a great job, but Mike's grandma still had to go find a dress that covered her neck. My grandma also had to find a dress long enough to cover her wrists from the ligature.
Maria, thank you. Thank you.
That's what my grandma had to do for her child. That's what she had to do instead of grieving and being upset. There was no mercy there. He didn't give a shit what he did. He was just hoping that he got away with it. But just like the key factor says, Ralph, the kids up in the hills that seen you. Oh, let's not mention the girlfriend that we are not even hearing about, that told the whole story about everything. The whole story. We know about the Village Inn. We know about it all. We know about how she got mad and told you to just go drop her off. We know it all. Again, most of all my stories, my writing has been taken away from me by all my family members. That's fine. This is a little tidbit for you, Ralph. I told you years ago, fight until you're dragged out of that prison in a body bag. I've endured all your cheap shots. I've endured all your
Bill is the best.
You looking at me. I remember the time the bailiff told you that if you turned around again, he was going to take you out of the courtroom. I'm always there. I know you can't turn around today, but right behind you sits my son. He's there. He's there for me. You're never going to get out of that prison. You're right. And because if you do get out of that prison, I'll just leave that as an ended statement right there. I'm not there, but I'm staring at the back of your head in this video. And
Release him from jail.
Since the moment it started streaming. You don't have the decency to admit that you killed my mom, or you're going to sit here and say that you don't remember. You know what you did. You're a coward. You get to coward your way out of this. You get to die within seconds. I wish it could be the most painful and brutal death ever, but unfortunately, we're bound by that Constitution that we all hide behind. Well, you hide behind. That you have the rights. Unusual pain or suffering. I'm a little foggy. I spent most of the night contemplating what I'm going to say, so you can't be punished brutally. You get a humane way of seconds you're dead. They're going to find some of the finest sharpshooters in the state of Utah. And let me tell you, buddy, there is a mile-long line of people that want to do this to you.
No. We have to all move to Utah and change the laws real quick. We want monkeys. We want monkeys to be on the firing squad with guns until they actually hit him where it hurts.
Have to worry about that. And I'm pretty sure that we can find people anywhere that'll give up the bullets for this. And if they need some bullets,
Hey, Kathy, I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure anywhere they shoot him, it would hurt.
you have been a coward and a waste and been nothing to this world. You have not done anything positive. I'm just curious, have you ever even paid taxes? But yet everybody in that courtroom pays taxes to take care of you every day. And let me remind you, I told everybody, this isn't going to be your typical one. I'm not happy. I'd like to thank the Attorney General's office. I'd like to thank the late Attorney General Jan Graham. She was absolutely amazing. She took care of my family. She cared a lot about this. Mark Shurtleff, he was amazing too. I don't know if Aaron's listening, but Aaron, oh, we miss you. Tom, you and Aaron have dedicated your careers to this and seeking justice for my mom. I appreciate you taking the time out of your retirement that you so well deserve to continue to waste thousands of hours of your time to get this man put to death. Tammy, if you're listening, you were always there for us. You were there for my grandma. Thank you. I would like to thank Dick Judd, Detective Dick Judd. He was always good to my family through all the countless times that he interacted with us in the early onset of this. I would like to mention a good friend, Sharon Weeks. It breaks my heart knowing that you will never be able to see justice for your sister and niece like the way that I'm trying to do. But all I'm going to say is you are 100% right about all this. Absolutely. Heidi, I want to thank you and for everything in your voice. You have always had my back. I've always felt safe knowing that you were there. I could not have asked for a better attorney to represent myself and my mom. You are so loved and respected by this family, and everything that you've done for us will never be forgotten. Side note, congratulations on 30 years, and I hope you have a great time on that trip next month. I expect your phone to be turned off, and I expect you to worry about it when you get back. Lonnie, thank you for taking care of my family while I'm out of town, making sure that everything's good there. Thank you for taking Colby. So I guess you're stuck with us on September 5th, so you decide if you're going to come watch them or not. Lindsay, Eric, Jennifer, Sonia, we've all had our piece. You know that this is nothing personal. You guys are, I absolutely have nothing personal against you. He is very lucky to have you guys as his legal team. He will not be able to go in and fight for ineffective assistance of counsel because you guys are amazing. You guys are very good attorneys. You know I love and respect each and every one of you. You guys have taught me one thing.
Okay. Now remember, we want to wait. We don't want a decision until after Tuesday. It is Sunday. We need 2 more days before they make a decision. 2 more days. And this is why. We're about to find out why.
Sorry, you guys have taught me a lot of things, and one thing is forgiveness. I don't have any animosity towards you guys. The energy level is very different in the courtroom when we were there from the beginning to where it is now. We both have different fights that we're doing here, but we're still human and we have a common goal, and that's to take care of our families. And you guys have chosen this as your career to take care of your families, and I respect that, and you guys know that. Nothing I will ever say is a personal attack upon you or your profession. This is an attack on the system and me just trying to seek justice for my mom. Eric, I 100% recognize you using my mom's name 100%. And thank you for that. That is very much appreciated, and I respect a lot for that. You guys didn't meet my mom, but I know you've read a lot about her, and I know that if my mom was here right now, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing. And that's not said in a bad way. It's saying that my mom is absolutely amazing. Again, I say these things in the utmost respect for all of you. And again, let me say that he does have the best defense team. Lindsay, I believe you're at home listening to this, and we are praying for you and your family. I hope he is doing better. Dana, you made a comment a few minutes ago about mom. Oh God, she loved you. Don't you ever, ever question that. And don't you ever forget that. She loved you. You were her first daughter. I was the first boy. Nick, you're stuck in the middle. Sucks to be you. Nick, you served mom well. She would be absolutely so proud of you for serving your country the way that you did. She would be proud of all of our families. Yeah, we have our shit show of kids, but you know what? She would have loved them, and I promise you, we would have probably been in the same situation. They would have tattled on us, called grandma, and grandma would have ripped into both of us. Colby, thank you for being the face of grandma and my mom this week. Thank you for taking the time off of work. Thank you for taking the time away from your daughter. I know you don't like jails. I know you don't like prisons. I know you don't like not having that ability to leave. And thank you for enduring that for this. I'm going to say something to you, Colby. I believe that your little princess was handpicked. Every time you send me a picture, I can see her in there. You are a great dad. You're an amazing young man, and I'm very proud of you for picking up this fight when I was unable to this week. I am sorry for what that piece of shit in that orange suit took from you. He took one of the most greatest mothers.
He has it. He has it all on his shoulders. He feels like he has to do this all. He feels like, that it's all on him. He has that huge family and they're all there and they're all fighting, but he doesn't feel that way. He feels like he has to be the one. Dad's not strong enough. It has to be him. God, that poor man.
Ever. And your grandmother. And she would have spoiled you rotten. I couldn't be more proud to see the way that you look at your daughter and knowing how much you love and care for her. Again, thank you for fighting for your grandma and my mom. So if you guys haven't understood what I'm saying and rambling on in my speeches, is this man deserves no mercy. He needs to be executed in 21 days. 21 days. Ralph, 21 days. I pray to God, if there's a God, that in 21 days from right now, it's 10:15, your dead body's in a bag. And I don't care what they do with it. And if your family needs help figuring it out, I'll pay for the cremation. There should be no commutation. This board should take no move, no pip, nothing on this. You guys need to let justice be served for my mom. Somebody in this courtroom or whatever, this parole room, I want somebody to take a note. Allison, you've been amazing. Thank you for everything. I'm going to ask for one favor. And yeah, I am asking for a favor. I'm asking that this parole board respect and wait until at least Tuesday morning before rendering your decision to the public. I would like to get home to my family and be home with my family when your decision comes out, whatever that may be. Do not send a decision out that's going to destroy me when I'm 500 miles away from my family. I ask you, I'm begging you, please, at the minimum, please wait until Tuesday to when I am home. Allison, you know that's important to me. My mom's name is Maureen F. Hunsaker. She was born February 28, 1959. She was brutally murdered on February 24, 1986. Her body was found by a hiker on February 25th, 1986. You piece of shit, you left my mom in the fucking mountains to die. You're lucky I'm not there. I told you I was not going to be nice. And I don't care what happens. You will never see freedom again. I promise you that. You robbed me of my mom. You robbed Nick of his mom. You robbed Dana of her mom. You robbed Chris of his stepmom. 14 grandchildren. One beautiful great-grandchild. I will be there and I will watch you get shot. I promise that. This board does not have anything presented before them that says anything that this man deserves to live. You have one of the best judges in the world, Judge Bates, that is legitimately checked everything off on this. I don't understand how we are even fighting or begging this board to show mercy. He showed no mercy. This is just another attempt to try to delay and try to pull tactics out of it. You know what you're doing. You know what you did. You don't have the balls to come out and say what you did to my mom. Maybe had you come out and admitted that, maybe we would be singing a different tune right now. But you didn't. You killed my mom in cold blood. You left her to die in the mountains. 21 days. That's all you got left. Start making them phone calls, buddy. Start telling everybody they're going to shoot you, because that's what's going to happen. I have the faith in this system somewhat because it's been shattered for so many years. How many times I fought for the legislature to leave the death penalty alone. I want to see you executed for what you did to my mom. I don't care if you can't stand, shoot you in the wheelchair. Again, my mom was an amazing woman. I'm not going to share my details of what I hold inside of my heart with my mom. I'm telling this board, he is competent. He's played the system for 40 years. He has the best defense team right there. There is no way that you guys should even remotely think of this, of commuting his sentence to life without the possibility of parole. Because let me ask you this, could he appeal that to a Supreme Court saying, well, wait a minute, is this going to end it for us? No. So if you do give him this commutation, you're just giving me a lifelong brutal death sentence of going to court and fighting for that. So that's all I have to say. I'm pretty sure the board doesn't have nothing for me to say, but I'll see your ass in the execution chamber in 21 days.
Okay, guys, breathe.
Unsafer.
We got through the worst of it. That was the worst of it. We made it through. All right. There's still like an hour more or ish. But Josh got me through that part when I first saw it. He's sending me texts. I was sending him text messages. We made it through. Now you guys made it through.
Mr. Zuckerman, I assume you'd like a break.
Bill, wake up. Bill's asleep. I lost Bill. Bill, you've been here for a long time. How do you like doing a long live stream? Isn't this fun?
I was literally just texting, long day, everyone, got to go. I'll go ahead and click send. But yeah, I got to get out of here. I got to go to Alabama today. So I'm going to end up in Alabama. Thank you everybody for all the love that you guys give me. Thank you for supporting my channel and supporting Kathy. I'll get back to the lives one day. The world's just really busy right now and everything's going on. And I promised people in my life that, family would come first, and they called me to that. And so, but thank you everybody. I'm going to go. Thank you so much for letting me come out, Kathy.
Thank you for coming.
Horrible hearing, by the way.
Hey, tell Emily I love her more than you love her.
I will tell her that. That'll be an easy statement to make.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, guys, now we get to hear, now that we heard that, and then we got to talk to Bill for a second to decompress and breathe again. Now we get to hear the defense team and the prosecution fight their cases. Try not to forget the oldest son when you're listening to all this garbage.
Now to prepare for your closing argument. As we discussed before, each side will have an hour and a half total for closing. Looking at the time, Mr. Brunker, I don't know how long Mr. Zuckerman will take, of course, so you may or may not get started before lunch. With that being said, we will take a 10-minute break at this time.
All right. I really dislike BLC. That was 10 minutes. Are you kidding me?
Years.
Oh, no, I fast forwarded.
I understand that this 4-decade process of the evolution of this system.
Thank you, Mr. Unsafer.
I fast forwarded it while I was recording it.
I assume you'd like a break now.
All right, hold on.
Argument. As we discussed before, each side will have an hour and a half total for closing. Looking at the time, Mr. Brunker, I don't know how long. Mr.
Well, they
Robinson
do
did
a really good
for, so
job.
we may or may not get started before lunch. With that being said, we will take a 10-minute break at this time.
Defense does a great job. They do what they're supposed to do. We're going to see it. Don't worry. I'm scared to ask, Josh. So I'm not going to. I do move that eventually. I forgot that I left it on there. It does get moved. Don't worry. I just don't know how long it's there for. This red line will be there for a few minutes. That's not me. That's them getting ready. True. So the defense is about to say, no. We're not talking about just dementia. So we've been saying that they say that he's not allowed to be executed because he has dementia, but that's not the whole story. Also, soon I get caught up in the speed and it turns to normal speed. MRIs, yes, there is.
We are back on the record. Mr. Zuckerman, go ahead.
Thank you. I've heard the family of Maureen Hunsinger today. I've heard about their pain every time this case is in the news. The perpetual lack of closure. The constant reminder of Ralph Menzies. I've listened to a fraction of what their life has been like during the last 37 years. And I understand that this 4-decade process.
See, I got rid of it pretty quick. See, it's different with me. So most of the YouTube channels that you guys see out there get their judges and their cases and their dockets and all of their content from YouTube. When you get your content from YouTube, most of the judges have them recorded on their channel. And you can just go back and you can fast forward and you can rewind. And if you mess up, you can start over and record. But not me. I get all my stuff almost. All my stuff is live and it's not from YouTube. So there is no do-overs. I capture it live and that's when I capture it, or I don't get it at all and I can't rewind. So when I do something like that and I leave my mouse on the screen for a second, I can't fix it. There's nothing I can do to go back and fix that from happening because it's live. So you're never going to get professional on this channel. This isn't the channel you go to find professional. This is the channel you go to when you want to see judges and cases that no other channel has. Thanks for my soapbox.
If Ralph had been given life without parole, we wouldn't be here today. There would have been no hearings, no appeals, no press coverage focused on him. I wouldn't be representing him. None of us would. He would have faded into obscurity at the Utah State Prison in Draper. Granting clemency will achieve that now. If clemency is denied, instead of Ralph fading out, there's going to be more. It will culminate in a spectacle of gunfire, with the media feeding off it, and the pain of the family, and the death of Ralph Menzies, and the dysfunction of this system, and the legacy of a cruel system. Cruel to Mr. Menzies, cruel to the family. It should have ended 40 years ago. Granting clemency can end it now. Either way, Mr. Menzies' sentence is death. Even if this board grants clemency, he's going to die in prison. His disease is already killing him. As Dr. Hyde testified, someone with severe vascular disease, like Ralph Menzies, typically has a life expectancy of only 5 to 7 years. His condition likely began around 2018 when he started falling. The white matter damage seen on his MRI scan in 2023 was at the most severe level, meaning it had been progressing for years before that scan was done. Given how quickly he's deteriorating now, he likely doesn't have much time. What remains is marked by immobility, incontinence, dependence on an oxygen tank, repeated falls, severe pain in an already damaged spine and back, all with a lack of freedom and the constraints of a cell. Dementia is just one aspect of our argument before this board for clemency. As I said in my introduction, and I meant it, there's so much more here that warrants mercy. Utah has never granted clemency for a capital defendant, and this case warrants it. As I said in my introduction, we don't want to relitigate the issue of competency. We respect the board's instructions on that this is not what this hearing is about, and we agree. That's what the state is trying to do. They ask their experts outright their opinions on competency. What we are here to do is ask for mercy, only in part based on Mr. Menzies' dementia. Not because he does or does not meet a federal constitutional standard. Whether or not he meets the standard is a question for the court. This board's role is distinct from that, but it plays an equally important part in this system and in ensuring the integrity of our system. Because this hearing is not about competency, it's never been our intention to draw this board into the details of that determination, which properly belong in the courts. That's why our presentation focused not on whether he's competent, but on why his dementia is one of many reasons to grant him mercy. However, the state's case on Wednesday implied
Yep, that's right.
Concealing evidence, presenting unethical experts. Because of that, we believe it's important to briefly clarify and demonstrate to you that that's not the case. The implication of their entire case on Wednesday is that we are trying to mislead you about Mr. Menzies' dementia. They try and imply that we have something to hide, and that's why we didn't consent to their experts evaluating him, and that's disingenuous. The state sought to have their own experts evaluate Mr. Menzies while we were litigating the issue of competency in the 3rd District Court, while also fighting our request to have an independent evaluation of Mr. Menzies for the first time in a year by Department of Health and Human Services doctors. We objected to that because we believe that if the state's going to have their expert evaluate Mr. Menzies for competency, which is what they asked for, that there should be an independent Department of Health and Human Services evaluation to ensure accuracy and impartiality. The state had legal mechanisms to seek evaluations, but instead they tried to circumvent that and suggest to the board that we have something to hide. Same with providing our experts data. We had no objection to disclosing that data to the state. We simply believed it should be done within the established court process that was ongoing at the time that they tried to get it. They didn't follow the court process. And then they come in here and try and make us look like we're dishonest. The state yesterday elicited questions and implied that their experts were found credible by the court and ours were not. That is false. Here's what the court said in its opinion. The court finds Dr. Abramsov's diagnosis of vascular dementia to be credible. The court finds Dr. Hyde's testimony about Menzies' medical condition.
Who cares?
Falls, loss of consciousness, and hypoxia to be credible. The court also finds that Dr. Hyde testified credibly and accurately testified about Menzies' answers to his questions. Dr. Bigler's testimony about Menzies' MRI scans and neuropsychological testings is consistent with the opinions of other experts that Menzies.
If they let him go, Matt was with me that night. Matt was in my house in a different state that night. Yep. Let him go. And I will testify in court. I'll prove it any way I have to. Matt was nowhere near that man that night.
He has vascular dementia. The state presented a number of witnesses. I'm going to go through them briefly. They presented Hayden Kay, who had no relevant observations. He's observed Mr. Menzies once in the past year, in passing in the hallway. All of his observations were from before August 14th, 2024.
You all saw him here that night.
From Antelope. He did say one thing that I think is relevant, which is that Ralph is good in me. And we'll talk about that.
No one cares.
Who says that since moving back to Antelope, he's not aware of Mr. Menzies using his tablet other than requesting a chaplain blessing, which is literally a box you check on the tablet. And that the state tries to use against him the fact that he's seeking a blessing at the end of his life. Sergeant Torrance was made aware that he was having issues getting out of bed to use the facilities, so medical gave him a plastic urinal, which corroborates the medical records that they tried to cast doubt on.
Who cares?
Even there, but it was taken away from him when he was put in a single cell in Antelope, which explains the increased falls and physical difficulties that our experts testify have been occurring in the last month since he was moved from general population into restrictive housing. He testified that first he was using a walker, and then he slowly transitioned into a wheelchair. He testified that he had issues working on the phone, using the phones, and the guards had to reset the system for him. It doesn't undermine anything that we've presented to you. What we've presented is real. The state called Dr. Green, calls himself a neuropsychologist, but he's not board certified in neuropsychology like our experts are. He's not taken the neuropsychology board test, and when I asked him about that at the competency hearing, he said he's in the process of going through it now. Dr. Thompson is not a neuropsychologist either. He specializes in child psychology, but he's here opining on dementia. Neither of the experts the state presented are medical doctors like Dr. Hyde is. They're not neurologists. They're trying to pass doubt, argue that Mr. Menzies' decline is due.
He was a young child when he was first convicted of burglary and assault. And he went to jail. And they gave him a second chance. And because he had that second chance, he murdered Maureen. If he didn't have that second chance, he wouldn't have been able to murder Maureen.
Depression and dementia, despite the district court's finding that he has dementia and associated cognitive decline, a judicial finding. He's not sitting in urine so closed because of depression. He's not falling 3 times a week due to depression. His brain is not shrinking due to depression. He's in a cell with a camera watching him 24 hours a day. He's not faking this. I could talk for hours about Dr. Green's testimony yesterday. You don't want me to do that. I don't want to do that. I encourage you to read my cross-examination of Dr. Green's testimony at the competency hearing. I think it will shed light on what he said yesterday. It's contained at Exhibit 51, PDF, page 496 to 628. Dr. Green testified on Wednesday.
That's too many pages.
At the competency hearing that Mr. Menzies does not have dementia. But both DHS doctors who evaluated him in 2024, early 2024, agreed that he does. The district court found, quote, Menzies has shown that he has vascular dementia, end quote. Dr. Green's testimony on Wednesday, without having talked to him in over a year, is that he's able to understand what's being told to him. But what didn't he talk about at all? Stephanie Callahan, his caseworker, who has spent the most time with him over the past year, who said that he's declined significantly and he's had trouble understanding basic conversations.
Yeah, maybe, but But the thing is, Strothy, he's not pulling a 24-hour of acting bit because they have jail phone calls that he has made recently, proving that he is perfectly capable of understanding everything that's going on around him. No signs of dementia at all. And yeah, he's getting health insurance, Lozzie, but I don't have health insurance. I can't go to a doctor. Or three.
Dr. Green listened to Mr. Menzies' phone calls, and he conceded during his testimony that based on those phone calls, quote, his speech output is reduced compared to previous calls I was able to review, which is what our experts said, what Dr. Hyde said. He's talking less. He makes phone calls when he's having good days. He doesn't make phone calls when he's having bad days. And even on the good days, he's talking less than he was before, because that's what happens. People withdraw into themselves when they have dementia. Anyone who's had a family member or a loved one who has witnessed them knows what I'm talking about. Dr. Green attacked Dr. Abrams Silva's ethics for conducting an evaluation on someone she believes is incompetent. But Utah code already contemplates this. 77-19-204, which is the execution competency statute, states that, quote, an adjudication of incompetency to be executed does not operate as an adjudication of the inmate's incompetency to give informed consent for medical treatment or for any other purpose unless specified in a court order. Dr. Abrams Silva did nothing wrong. She followed the statute and she followed what she was supposed to do in conducting an evaluation on someone that she did believe and found to be incompetent. Dr. Green's attacks on her credibility reveal his own bias. He made a big deal about the fact that we didn't have a current MRI. You know, as this board saw, the MRI from 2 years ago already showed the most severe level of tissue damage.
Monica, thank you. Thank
This is an MRI
you.
commissioned by
Thank
us.
you.
I'm not a medical doctor. That was ordered by the doctors at the University of Utah and corrections doctors to try and figure out why he's been falling so much. Yet Dr. Green did not contest that the white matter scarring was at the most severe level, or that the atrophy that our experts talked about. Yet he asked this board to discount this incontrovertible evidence. We presented testimony from Mr. Menzies.
Linus, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Dementia, who saw clear and consistent physical and cognitive decline. Even at the competency hearing, Dr. Green and the state's other expert testified that lay witness reports are extremely important in determining someone's cognitive decline. This corroborates what our experts in the medical records say about the progression of his disease. Dr. Green and Dr. Thompson both argued that Mr. Menzies' cognitive decline is better explained by depression than dementia. Dr. Green testified on Wednesday that, quote, depression has certain behavioral and cognitive behaviors that can mimic dementia. It's called pseudodementia. Depression can look like dementia if there are no other signs like neuroimaging. But there is neuroimaging. We presented the neuroimaging.
Maria, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
This isn't pseudodementia. Dr. Thompson, without having evaluated Mr. Menzies in
Kimby, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Not experienced significant cognitive decline.
Love to all who have faced these types of life events. Kimby loves you. I love you
I
too.
did find to be equally attributed to increased levels of depression. It's important to understand that an individual who's been notified his death warrant has been issued would have reason to be depressed. But the death warrant in this case wasn't issued until July 9th. Stephanie Callahan testified that she's seen significant decline in Mr. Menzies in the 5 months he was in her class from January 2025 to May 2025. Depression would not account for that because no warrant had been issued. The competency petition was still pending. Our experts evaluated Mr. Menzies on June 30th, 2025, before the execution warrant was issued. Mr. Menzies has dementia. It's clear on neuroimaging. It was found by the court. Dementia declines. That's what it does. His decline isn't due to depression. That doesn't make any sense. It's due to the progression of his disease. Sitting in his urine so closed in his cell without telling anyone. His brain is literally wasting away. He can't breathe on his own.
Kelly, thank you so much. Thank you. Linus, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Menzies didn't ask anyone for an oxygen tank. This isn't some game. Dr. Thompson said on Wednesday, quote, an individual in Mr. Menzies' situation would have strong motivation to linger, to not respond accurately to questions. The competency hearing, exhibit 51, page
PDF page 733. I asked him.
I can't breathe on my own when I have to tie my shoes. Why does he get to breathe on his own?
You believe that Mr. Menzies was honest with you during your evaluation? He said, I have no reason to believe he was not being honest with me. And I said, in fact, Mr. Menzies told you, quote, I don't want to die, but I am not going to lie to save my life.
Monica, thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr.
Thank
Thompson,
you.
when he made that statement, yes. I said, you didn't put that in your report. Dr. Thompson said, I don't think it's in the report. It's certainly in my notes. I asked him, you found him to be cooperative during his interviews? He answered, I did. I asked him, you have no information that indicates that he exaggerated any of the symptoms he discussed with you? And he answered, that's correct. But he comes in here, and now he says Mr. Menzies is faking. We asked him, you're also aware that none of the experts whose reports you reviewed and who evaluated Mr. Menzies indicated that they believed he was malingering or exaggerating his symptoms? He answered, yeah, I don't recall any report that would suggest that. We asked him, so you consider what Mr. Menzies told you about himself to be valid data to consider when forming your ultimate opinions in this case? And he answered not only what he said, but how he said it. Dr. Brooks, the Department of Health and Human Services expert who evaluated Mr. Menzies and testified at the evidentiary hearing. This is Exhibit 51 at PDF page 173. We asked him, in fact, in your report, you wrote, quote, of note, Mr. Menzies did not appear to exaggerate any symptoms of mental illness, nor did he appear to feign any competency-related impairment. He answered, correct. Question, so you don't believe he was malingering? Answer, I do not believe he was. Question, and you don't believe he was trying to appear worse off than he actually is? Answer, no, I thought he was very forthright. Dr. Green, testimony at the evidentiary hearing on competency, Exhibit 51, at PDF page 505 to 506. Question, you wrote, quote, he appeared motivated to perform to the best of his ability and genuine/forthcoming in answering questions. Answer, I agree with that statement, yes. Question, and you said that Mr. Menzies told me if I were honest in my evaluation, he would be honest with me. He asked me simply to be honest with my findings and report and stated his highest value is honesty and his second highest value is respect. You wrote that, right? Answer, yes. Question, so you accept the things that he told you as being accurate insofar as he believes them? Answer, yes, sir. Mr. Menzies is not faking this.
Monica, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
He was evaluated. Dr. Thompson agreed that he was being forthright, but he came in here and tried to imply to this board that he's malingering, and that's wrong. That's just wrong. I want to move on from dementia, but I want to talk real briefly about the phone calls that the state relies so heavily on. First, he's making significantly fewer phone calls than he did previously. Between August 14,
So much worse.
September 26,
So much worse.
He placed 33 phone calls that went through in which he had conversations. In contrast, between May 8th, 2025 and July 7th, 2025, he only managed to place 13 phone calls. Dr. Green listens to his phone calls, and he admitted that Mr. Menzies is talking less. And Mr. Chairman, I know you said that the board has listened to these calls, and maybe you'll listen to them again. If you do, you will see how the other person on the other end of the line does most of the talking. And Mr. Menzies is sitting there basically saying filler words like simple acknowledgments of what the other person says. Yes, at times current events were brought up. The one Dr. Green discussed yesterday in violation of the protective order that our experts didn't have an opportunity to respond to happened right after Mr. Menzies saw the nightly news where the current events were discussed. Dr. Hyde talked about how Mr. Menzies is likely making calls on days he's feeling good and not on the days he's feeling bad, which makes sense with the fact that he's made only half the amount of calls in the same period of time. He's having trouble remembering his inmate number and the phone numbers he's called for years. The state submitted 13 calls that actually went through to the board and left out the other 15 or 16 calls where Mr. Menzies couldn't remember the number he was calling or couldn't remember his inmate number. And you hear him cursing because he's frustrated that he can't figure out how to get the calls to go through. Those calls are, I mean, they're a few seconds long, but they're worth listening to. And that's why we submitted them as supplemental exhibits after the states, because they show frustration and difficulty in simple processes. This is clear evidence of decline. Anyone who has a family member with dementia understands they can make phone calls, they can talk, they can have conversations. We're not saying he's a vegetable. Dementia is highly variable, but it has affected him significantly. Now I'm going to move on to what I really want to address today, because I hope that that corrects the record from the testimony that we heard on Wednesday. The Utah Constitution and the legislature has carved out a special role for this board.
If you're watching my live stream on YouTube and you don't have YouTube Premium and you keep getting ads, I have Twitch ready. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free subscription to one Twitch channel once a month. You have to go in every month and you have to pick it. But if you take that subscription and you sub to my channel on Twitch, you can watch this same live stream right now in real time and chat with us just like they are. And you don't have to watch any damn ads. So if you want to do that, you can continue watching with no ads.
Entrusted you with the power to grant mercy in death penalty cases. And in doing so, they recognize that in certain circumstances, we need a separate board that can act outside of the legal constraints of the courts. The death penalty is carried out on behalf of the citizens of the state of Utah, and society relies on you to act on their behalf to grant mercy in cases where it is warranted. It is a heavy burden and responsibility, but it is one we know this board takes seriously. But the death penalty is the ultimate punishment. It is irreversible. It is fatal violence carried out by the government on behalf of society. It must be, and it has been used extremely rarely in this state. But the death penalty only works if the integrity of the sentence is beyond reproach. There must be no question about the integrity of an execution before it is carried out. If there is any doubt about that integrity, or whether the execution is fundamentally fair, it should not be carried out. This board has an important and critical role to act as a failsafe to ensure the integrity of an execution where courts are without legal authority to act. And there is substantial question about the integrity of this execution. The first thing I want to talk about is perjury. Perjured testimony was relied upon heavily by the prosecutor in this case. I read the quotes to you previously. I don't need to read them again, but he mentioned it 3 times in his argument. Saying slitting someone's throat is the greatest thrill of my life is severely aggravating, and it was false. He never made those statements. Walter Britton, the prison informant who testified under oath that he made those statements, recanted twice. George Benitez, Walter Britton's friend in prison, corroborated that recantation. He said at the time, he told me he was going to make up testimony to try and help himself get out of prison. We know Judge Uno relied on this perjured testimony in weighing the aggravators and the mitigators, and it is a bad aggravator.
Yeah, okay. They did find some perjured testimony in the case. 39 years ago, they did. But then they went over that testimony again and again and again over the last 39 years. And without that, the evidence still proved he killed her. The evidence, the eyewitnesses that saw him with her, all of that proves that he killed her. So that's why the courts have not turned over the conviction, even after they found out some people perjured themselves. So stop.
Severe. Boasting about committing a murder, saying that it's a thrill, that's horrible aggravating evidence. And it was false. And the Conviction Integrity Independent Panel for the Salt Lake District Attorney's Office recognized that. They said that the evidence is clear and unrebutted, that Mr. Britton was not truthful when he testified that Mr. Menzies bragged about and took pleasure in relating how he killed Ms. Hunsinger. It is our view that given the reluctance Judge Uno showed when he rendered sentence, in Mr. Menzies' case, had he known that he was relying even partially on perjured testimony, he may well have sentenced Mr. Menzies to life rather than death. It was and is fundamentally unfair for the state to execute a person if the judge's decision to impose death was, as it was in this case, based to any degree on perjured testimony affecting one of the elements the judge relied on. If the people of the state of Utah believe in the validity of the death penalty, it must be reserved for cases where the integrity of the sentence is beyond question, when a person's life is taken by the state based in part on lies, the outcome does not reflect the truth of what happened, but the false story of someone that someone chose to tell. Allowing that sentence to remain in place gives power to dishonesty, and it erodes the public's trust in that execution and in the death penalty in general. Commutation in such a case is not just mercy, it is the only way to ensure that no one's fate is sealed by a deliberate falsehood. Next thing I want to talk about is Judge Uno and his opinions on whether the execution should go forward. We talked about Judge Uno when I read, what he said, what he relied on. Clearly, he did not come to the decision easily, and he struggled with the decision to impose the death penalty, as any judge or jury should. And Judge Uno, this was the only case that he sentenced someone to death in, and he believed that he made a mistake in weighing the aggravators and the mitigators, which is what we just talked about related to the perjury. But even beyond that, in the heinousness factor, he said twice, based on two independent reasons, he believed that Mr. Menzies should be sentenced to life. If the judge who imposed a death sentence no longer believes that sentence should be carried out, that is a warning that cannot be ignored. The judge had the closest view of the facts and the law and the person being sentenced. If, with that insight, the judge now sees that the execution is wrong, it means that the moral and factual foundation for that punishment has crumbled. To proceed anyway would be to turn a blind eye to the wisdom of the one who decided death was necessary, and it would risk making the execution an act of stubbornness rather than justice. The fact that the Board of Pardons is enshrined in the Constitution is a testament to the fact that the people of Utah, in their wisdom, believe that these decisions can and should be revisited when doing so best reflects the values of the citizens of Utah. I talked about how, in my opening, about how the state has never executed someone based on perjury. I've talked about how the state has never executed someone when the judge who imposed sentence, Mr. Menzies waived a jury sentence. This was not a jury, this was a judge sentencing. When he believed that it was wrong, that he made a mistake, and that the execution should not go forward. Allowing those things to happen, allowing the execution to go forward will create a precedent in this state that it is okay to execute someone based on perjury, that it is okay to execute someone when the judge says that he was wrong. I want to talk a little bit about the Conviction Integrity Panel and their decision. Chief Justice Durham, who, the first name on the top of that panel decision, who sat on Mr. Menzies' Supreme Court panels and ruled that his sentence should be upheld under the law that the court was constrained by, no longer stands by this sentence. Not only does she not, and do they not stand by it, but they find it to lack integrity, and they say that as a result, the execution would be fundamentally unfair. When a conviction integrity panel concludes that a sentence is fundamentally unfair and lacks integrity, that finding deserves serious consideration. It reflects a careful review by those entrusted to examine whether outcomes align with the principles of justice. Granting the commutation to life without parole will ensure that the punishment reflects fairness and uphold confidence in the system. The district attorney, the elected district attorney of Salt Lake, determined, he didn't say that their findings was wrong. He didn't say that the sentence had integrity or that the integrity was intact. He didn't say that it would be fundamentally fair for the execution to go forward. He simply said the law does not permit a remedy as a result of this. And that is why this board is here, to act as a failsafe, to provide that remedy, to maintain the integrity of the system. So if someone is not executed based on perjury. One issue that the Conviction Integrity Board was extremely concerned about and troubled by was the statutory change that I talked about. And I read, the statutes are cited in there, they're in our petition. But the long and the short of it is that at the time Judge Uno sentenced Mr. Menzies to death, he didn't have a choice but to do parole or death, right? Those were his only two options. And the prosecution hammered that. There was testimony on it. There was argument on it. It was a huge issue at sentencing. And Judge Uno, I've read to you his reasoning for the appropriateness of the death penalty. And his primary concern was for the innocent victim in the future. He could not guarantee that Mr. Menzies would spend the rest of his life in prison because of the statutory change. And the statute, the people of Utah, through their legislature, recognized that that statute needed to be changed. That life without parole needed to be an option for judges and juries to sentence someone to death, to sentence someone as opposed to sentencing someone to death in a way that would ensure that they would spend the rest of their lives in prison. And the Conviction Integrity Panel determined that if Judge Uno had had that option, they believed he would have exercised it. And that matters. The legislature tried to correct that issue. They did correct that issue going forward, but not in a way that made things right for this case. But this board has the power to do that. And the Conviction Integrity Panel found that it would be fundamentally unfair to execute Mr. Menzies, not just based on perjury, not just based on the other things that they pointed out in their well-reasoned and careful opinion, but also because of this statutory change, which just reflects a fundamental gap and unfairness in the system. And this board has the power to correct it. And I mean, the statutory issue aside, like even if the statute hadn't changed, what is the power that this board is entrusted with? The power to commute a sentence to life without parole, right? Even if the statutes were still out of date, even if life without parole wasn't a statutory option, separately, the legislature, through the constitutional authority, has given this board the authority to determine to sentence someone to life without parole, to remedy this particular issue. I want to talk about the sentencing justification by Judge Uno. And I've talked a little bit about it, but obviously his number one concern was protection of the community. That is why Mr. Menzies was sentenced to death, because Judge Uno felt at the time that it was necessary to protect the community from future crimes, from future violence at the hands of Mr. Menzies. Judge Uno said there's no guarantee he won't be paroled. Long-term invasive treatment necessary to rehabilitate the defendant is not available at the Utah State Prison or any other institution in the state. There is no facility where other inmates or staff will be free from threats, intimidation, or harm. There is no guarantee that rehabilitative treatment would be successful in the future. How will it diminish the danger of those exposed to the defendant if he is to be warehoused for the rest of his natural life in prison? My greatest concern is for the innocent victims in the future and how best to protect them. His pattern of living has consistently and continually exposed people to fear and harm, regardless of where he resides. It is unlikely the pattern will ever change. Those are the things he said. Those were his primary justifications for why the death penalty is appropriate in this case, as a statutory determination that was required for him to make. He has since changed his view on that, said that he made a mistake. The chief societal justification for the imposition of the death penalty in this case was that it was required to protect the citizens of Utah from Mr. Menzies. The citizens of Utah no longer need to be protected from Mr. Menzies. He is physically and mentally disabled. He is dying. Carrying out the execution will not achieve the original primary justification for the imposition of the sentence. Judge Uno's justification made sense at the time. He believed Mr. Menzies could not be safely incarcerated. He believed he would always be a risk, so he must be executed to protect society. Judge Uno thought Mr. Menzies would be executed long ago, but that's not how this system has worked.
Kelly, is your birthday next month, September?
There is no reasonable belief that Mr. Menzies is too dangerous to be incarcerated, which was the primary justification once he got passed away in the statutory aggravators and mitigators for why he believed the death penalty was appropriate in this case. We presented Lyle Smith, and he hasn't, he was a corrections guard, a captain that retired in 2005. He can't speak to Mr. Menzies currently, but we tried to show you how Mr. Menzies has acted and what he has done in prison since his sentence. Okay, Lyle Smith said he was respected, he was productive, he helped other corrections officers by diffusing conflict caused by other inmates. He was nonviolent. He was not a risk to other inmates. He said, I've never seen him act out. I've never seen him raise his temper all the time I was there. I don't think he would strike out to anyone at this point. Ms. Fleury asked him not to corrections officers. He answered, absolutely not. Captain Beers, we presented to you his sworn declaration. He was in charge of Mr. Menzies' housing unit for 3.5 years. And this was much more recently. And he said, he swore under oath that during the time I have known Ralph, he has never given anyone a problem while in prison. He is not violent. He is not a threat to anyone while incarcerated. From my personal experience as captain overseeing several units where Ralph has been housed, Ralph has been a model inmate. We heard Ms. Callahan. She talked about being, Ralph's case manager while he was in Bear in the SOLID program in general population. And she talked about what you needed to do to get into that program and to be able to live in general population outside of Antelope. No disciplinaries, no drugs, no risk.
I forgot. I got the month wrong. I forgot.
He's always respectful to others. Sergeant Torrance, called by the state, even he said that Mr. Menzies was a good inmate. He was trusted by the corrections officers, even in Antelope.
No one cares, dude.
To help them create a system in the laundry. Officer K, called by the state, gave an example of when he had an argument, meaning Officer K had an argument with another inmate, and Ralph intervened to help, citing regulations that helped to mitigate the situation. We presented you with the exhibit that showed that when Mr. Menzies was in Uinta, in secured housing, he was permitted to work, and he was permitted to work in the laundry because he was trusted and he earns that right. And while he was working in the laundry, he found a knife, a shank. And what did he do with that? Did he slip it back into the clothes he found it in? Did he bring it back to himself, his cell with him, to give it back to, someone else? He turned it in. This murder was committed with a knife. And later in life, Mr. Menzies turned in shanks on more than one occasion, is what the documents have said, likely preventing future harm to people at that, as a result of that weapon. This shows rehabilitation. It shows reform.
It's tomorrow.
It shows caring
Hopefully it
about
goes
welfare of
well.
others. Mr. Menzies lived in general population with no problems. When he was sent to general population, he contributed with positive and a consistent work history. The Department of Corrections risk assessment lists the risk of violence as low. He was one of 2 death row inmates that were allowed into the SOLID program. And I'm sure this board knows about the SOLID program and hears about it in your parole hearings when determining whether someone is rehabilitated and should be released back into society. Of course, that's not the question before this board.
And that right there is what I was talking to Josh about in text messages. What he's about to get into scares me about what their decision might be, because since feelings and thoughts about the death penalty has changed drastically in this world in the last 39 years. And this board has put together, I'm sure they had a hand in it. I'm sure they did. Had a hand in creating all these, programs and things like that to not punish anymore, but rehabilitate. And they want these programs to succeed. And this slimeball piece of shit asshole went through these programs and did well.
And his desire to be a part of it is important. It shows that he wants to help others. It shows that he's not the man that was convicted 37 years ago. That man is still inside him, but there is a lot more now. Even this late in the game, he wants to be productive. He wants to contribute to his community. He wants to better himself. You heard Ms. Callahan testify about how Mr. Menzies asked her to be in the moral recognition program, the moral recognition therapy program. Look, there's no question. He's at the end of his life, whether it's as a result of the firing squad or as a result of terminal vascular disease that he's had at least since 2023, and probably going back to around 2018. This is the end of his life, one way or another. And even at this point, he's seeking to come to terms with the struggles that he has experienced in his life to try and better himself. There's no other reason for him to do that, to want to be part of that program, to want to feel productive. She said he tried really hard And he wasn't able to complete the requirements of the class, but she gave him a certificate because she knew how hard he tried, and she knew he really wanted to feel that he had bettered himself. Even when his cognition was declining, he sought to better himself and confront his past. There's a program that's been around since about 2005 called the Last Chance Program. And I read portions of it to you. And I read it to you at that time to express to you, that he's not a risk in prison, that his behavior has been good, that he, did what the prison asked him to do to be able to be part of a program, that he wasn't a risk of violence like Judge Uno thought he would, that he wasn't a risk of threatening people and putting them in danger, that he wasn't too dangerous to incarcerate, that he could live the rest of his life in prison without posing a risk to people in prison, which is what Judge Uno was primarily afraid of when he sentenced him to death. That's why I read the Last Chance Program to you. But, I think we should talk a little bit about what that program is. It's called the Last Chance Program, and it's designed for death row inmates to give them one last chance to show that they are better than their crimes, to show that a person is not entirely defined by their worst act. Life in prison is not a good life. You know it as well as anyone, because you see people every day coming before you who have tried to better themselves to try and earn their way out of prison. And that's not what this is about, but Mr. Menzies saw the Last Chance Program as an opportunity to take that last chance. That was 2005 when that program was enacted. And pretty much all of this stuff that we have been talking about his behavior in prison and trying to prevent violence and diffuse conflict between corrections guards and other inmates and help people, happened while he was enrolled in that program. Trying to take that last chance that was given to him by the Department of Corrections to show that he is working towards becoming a better person, that he is open to rehabilitation, that he has changed, that he has outgrown the violent ways, or at a minimum, that those ways are not an issue while he is incarcerated. And he has succeeded in the Last Chance Program. He has thrived. He did everything that was asked of him, and that means something. It means something. Maybe it's not enough for this board to say that it's enough to spare his life, but it means something. They created a program that was meant to give inmates a last chance to prove themselves better than their crimes. You can follow through with that program by giving him a last chance to die in prison of his disease that has obviously taken so much of him and continues pretty rapidly to take what's left of him. Judge Uno sentenced Mr. Menzies to death because he believed at the time that he was a risk of violence, that he was too dangerous to incarcerate. We've talked about all of the reasons. This board is here to hear new information that has come about in the past 37 years that the courts can't consider when, it's not about whether the sentence was right at the time. It's not about whether Judge Uno, whether the law was violated when Judge Uno made that sentence. That's not what this board is here for. This board is here to consider the evidence that has come about over the last 37 years that shows that the justification for the imposition of the death penalty is no longer required. Judge Uno believed he needed to be executed because that was the only way to protect people. And if it's no longer the case that he needs to be executed to protect people, then executing him does not serve what the original goal of the sentence was. He's got a physical disability now. He's in a wheelchair. He's sitting in a wheelchair and urine so close. He has dementia. If the primary justification was to protect society and society no longer needs protection from Mr. Menzies, then what is the point of his execution? If the primary justification of the sentencing judge is no longer necessary, the purpose of the execution shifts from protection of society to unnecessary violence against a sick, old, disabled, demented man. We ask this board to grant mercy. We ask this board to grant mercy so that Mr. Menzies is not executed because of perjury. We ask this board to grant mercy so that Mr. Menzies is not executed in a situation that will be fundamentally unfair, as determined by an independent conviction integrity panel. We ask this board to exercise
Monica,
mercy,
thank
not
you.
execute
Thank you,
Mr. Menzies.
Monica.
when society no longer needs protection from him. I don't understand the family. I can't understand the pain that they have suffered. And I can stand up here and say that I understand it, and I can't. And I know that, I mean, I heard this morning, and it's powerful, and it's horrifying. It is. And, you know, this process, the death penalty process, has dragged on for 37 years. That's what the Constitution requires. And it's a result of a lot of flaws in the system. You know, I won't get into the flaws in his procedural situation, but like there were times when he was sitting waiting for lawyers for years because there were no qualified capital counsel to take his case. There were times when his, you know, cases, you know, that he was constitutionally entitled to were defaulted because lawyers did not act properly and the Supreme Court sent it back to do over again. That's not his fault. You know, the delay in this case has victimized the family of Maureen Hunsicker. And I mean, that is evidence of a flawed system. And I understand the pressures on you to do what they're asking. And I don't envy you. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes up there. It's a lot to take in. But if you look at the facts of this case, and if you look at whether
Thank you so much. Thank
the
you.
integrity of this sentence is intact, whether there is no doubt about the integrity of this sentence where he was convicted and sentenced to death based on perjury. We hope that you will see that that alone warrants mercy in this case, so that we don't set the precedent that the state of Utah will execute someone based on what the Conviction Integrity Panel found as undisputed and irrefutable evidence of perjury that was undeniably relied on by the sentencing judge. For that and for all of the other reasons I've talked about, we ask you for mercy. And I will reserve whatever time I have left for rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you, Linus. Thank you. Thank you. I'm not allowed to cheer on my own channel, it says. Murder. That's what it's based on.
Perhaps it makes more sense at this point to begin the lunch break now rather than have a few minutes of closing argument from the state and then the rest of it. Let's aim to be back at 12:50 since we're starting a little bit earlier. So we will go into break, aim to be back here at 12:50.
Okay, now it's their turn to answer back. And then they're going to say just a tiny, tiny bit more. And then it's over. So let me start the next one. Got distracted. And this is a normal speed, so everything should be good now. Yay, Orange. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know, Twitch. I mean, I have no idea Twitchy about if I can do that on Twitch. I don't know. I'm trying to click 17 things at once. Where I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So yeah, they did. They went into dementia a little bit, but they said that wasn't like the only reason why he shouldn't be murdered. I think I was waiting for like 12 minutes, I think. Yeah. The board has to come in. There they are.
We're back on the record. Mr. Brunker, I believe you are doing the closing.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to apologize in advance. I have a rather long outline. but I think it's going to be a much shorter presentation, but there may be some time while I scroll through what I'm not going to use.
Yeah, it's not terribly long.
In Craig versus Georgia, the United States Supreme Court explained that the death penalty is, quote, an expression of society's moral outrage at particularly offensive conduct. The court recognized that the penalty is, quote, is essential in an ordered society.
Mr. Brunker, would you mind moving the microphone closer so everyone can hear you?
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, that it recognized that the penalty is essential in an ordered society that asks its citizens to rely on legal processes rather than self-help to vindicate their wrongs. And the court cautioned that if, quote, people begin to believe that organized society is unwilling or unable to impose upon criminal offenders the punishment they deserve, then there are sown the seeds of anarchy, self-help, vigilante justice, and lynch law. Menzies' murder of Maureen Hunsaker was certainly offensive conduct worthy of moral outrage. The sentencing court called Maureen's murder cold and calculated, and it was. Menzies chose to go to the gas station. He chose to rob Maureen. He chose to then kidnap her. At that point, Menzies faced two choices. He could release Maureen, but that would risk new convictions for robbery and kidnapping, and he would also face more prison time on the convictions when his parole was revoked. Or he could kill her in the hope of escaping the consequences of robbing and kidnapping her. In the end, Mr. Menzies calculated that his freedom was more valuable than the life of a 26-year-old wife, daughter, sister, and mother of young children. And so after having Maureen call her husband and say that she would be released, he chose instead to take Maureen to Stone Mountain, tether her to a tree, strangle her, and slash her throat. In his mind, this was just one more order of business, which is what he told the person he borrowed the car from that he needed to keep the car longer to do. When Menzies was sentenced to death for what he did to Maureen, a promise was made to the people of the state and, more importantly, to Maureen's family to vindicate the wrongs Menzies inflicted when he took Maureen's life. That promise has remained unfulfilled for 37 years. During that time, the sentence has been deemed constitutionally sound under careful scrutiny of multiple courts, both state and federal. And some of Maureen's family, as you heard today, her mother and stepfather have not survived to see that promise fulfilled. So if after all that time, that promise to vindicate the wrong done to them is broken, there must be an extremely compelling reason to break it. I'm going to focus on what was mostly on what was argued here today, and rely on our response for the rest. One of the arguments that was brought up today is an argument that the basis for imposing the death sentence in the first place has been refuted. Menzies argues that this is so because the judge's concern that he was too dangerous to incarcerate has been proven unfounded, and that the judge's reference to lack of remorse was based on perjured testimony. On the first, the record does not support that the argument that his institutional record refutes the most critical dangerousness calculation, which was danger to the public. And on the first and second, even if commutation, it can be available when the basis for the original sentence is no longer valid. It should not be valid, whereas here, those were not the critical bases for the sentence. As summarized in the state's response, the judge's oral sentencing was extensive. He mentioned in listing the aggravated evidence, he started with Menzies' extensive criminal history that included 38 juvenile referrals armed robberies of a 7-Eleven clerk, kidnapping the clerk, escape and attempted escape, and crimes while on escape. On the last, there was a crime where he robbed a cab driver at gunpoint, nearly shot his arm off, and he robbed him of all of his fare and the single dollar that he had in his wallet. The court pointed to Menzies' lack of remorse for those robberies and kidnappings. And that was very apparent in the record. When Menzies reported or talked to police about those, he was laughing. The judge discounted testimony about the likelihood he would change. The judge noted that the parole board had once found that he was much improved and released him, and 18 months later, he murdered Maureen. The judge reasoned that a life in prison sentence provided no guarantee because the board could release him again, regardless of recommendations. The judge did refer to an incident where a screwdriver was smuggled into Mr. Menzies while he was at Utah State Hospital or attempted.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you.
And a cell search turned up a sharpened dustpan handle. The court also focused on the murder circumstances that, and again, he described them as cold and calculated. He said that Maureen endured 11 to 12 hours of fear and anxiety with a promise to be released. Maureen waited handcuffed without knowing what would happen. Menzies used a ligature and Maureen managed one scream, but there was no help. And Menzies watched Maureen die, removed the handcuffs, and walked away. The court noted the damage that Menzies had done to the victim's life. And then he did mention that he showed no remorse for the murder and referred to the language about boasting that cutting her throat was a thrill. The judge then applied the appropriate standard, found that the aggravators outweighed the mitigators, and that death was the appropriate sentence under the circumstances of this case. Mr. Menzies argues that his good behavior during incarceration on the death sentence is the reason that the threat assessment has been refuted. But the judge's primary threat assessment was to the threat to the public. And he factored into that calculus the possibility that he would have a good institutional record, because that was how Menzies got released before, and on that release murdered Maureen Hunsaker. And while the judge did mention Mr. Menzies' potential threat in the institution, again, his main focus was on the threat to the public. In addition, there were all of the other factors that the judge considered: the criminal history, the crime circumstances, and so on. And on the judge's reliance on remorse, the judge, as I said, he commented one time about the greatest thrill. And that was his only reference in the entire sentencing to that. And there was other evidence of lack of remorse, including his lack of remorse for the prior robberies. And Mr. Menzies has never accepted responsibility, as you heard Matt testify to today. He hadn't then, and he hasn't still. There's one final comment too. There's been a lot of argument about Judge Uno's affidavit supporting this argument. And Judge Uno did provide an affidavit saying that he believed he'd made a mistake in sentencing Mr. Menzies, and that his sentence should be life. But tellingly, that affidavit does not say that he would sentence him to life now that life without parole is available. He doesn't say that. And he doesn't say that it was a mistake based on the perjured testimony. He gives two other reasons that are unrelated to that. And I'll just quickly go through those because it was brought up. One, he said he misapplied the heinousness factor. That has been addressed by the courts and not rejected on a mere evidentiary basis. The courts rejected it on the merits. I think it was in Menzies 2, the court said it's questionable whether he actually applied that factor, but even if he did, it was harmless error. And then the other reason he said was that there was unrebutted evidence, mental health evidence presented at the sentencing phase, and that Judge Uno understood the law to be that when there's unrebutted evidence, he should have sentenced him to life. But that's just a mistake of the law. The mental health evidence is something that the sentencer can consider, but it is not dispositive. Okay, there's been a lot of discussion about Mr. Menzies' dementia. I do want to clear up one thing. Our experts yesterday did not testify that Mr. Menzies does not have dementia. In fact, both of them said have agreed with that diagnosis. And in fact, Dr. Green even went so far as to say he agreed with the Physicus 3 rating that Dr. Bigler testified to. What they testified to was that there were other. Dr. Thompson did say he thought depression better explained it. I think Dr. Green testified there were other possible causes, but he didn't, for some of Menzies' deficits, but did not testify that he did not have dementia. And I'm going to focus on the telephone calls because, as Dr. Green put it, he said that he thought the telephone calls were the best data on cognitive functioning because they provided an opportunity to see how Mr. Menzies engages in non-legal, non-adversarial situations and in non-testing situations. He's talking to his family. He's not on his guard. It's more candid. Dr. Thompson in those calls found examples of abstract thought processes, long-term and short-term memories, that he could remember things from conversations, from one conversation to another and within the conversation, and there was evidence of problem solving. Similarly, Dr. Green said that they showed evidence of processing speed, which he said was important in the vascular dementia assessment. He also said that it showed his memory was intact. He could recall old events and recent events. And he said that he had the ability to understand cause and effect. And he did not repeat himself in the calls. I won't get into the details, obviously, of the calls here. Dr. Green did make a misstep yesterday and apologize for it. But I would encourage the board to read our response where we do detail those examples and their significance. There was a question yesterday to Dr. Green that I want to clear up. The question was whether he got all the calls for the 2-month period. He got all 13 calls that went through. So any call where there was an actual conversation he got. There was no editing of that. He may not have got the calls that did not go through. I thought we provided those to him, but he may not have got those. So one of the arguments earlier was that those calls that Menzies makes calls on when he has good days, and he doesn't make calls when he has bad days. And if I heard correctly, the suggestion was that Dr. Hyde testified to that. And I do not think that's what Dr. Hyde testified to. It was posited to him. Is it possible, would he be more likely to make calls on good days? And Dr. Hyde said that could be. but there is no evidence that Mr. Menzies is only making calls when his cognition is better and not making them when he's not. And in fact, in the recent order that Judge Bates entered denying the competency reevaluation, he noted that there was no proof of that. There's also an evidentiary issue I want to bring up. During the presentation on Wednesday, Dr. Hyde was shown typed excerpts from several medical reports and asked to comment on those. This board's rule 3 sub 1 sub H obligated Mr. Menzies to submit to the board copies of all written evidence he intended to rely on. Only 5 of the reports that were talked about in that presentation have been submitted to the board. Those are the reports dated from January 2025 through May 14th of 2025. None of the rest of the reports that were discussed were submitted to the board, and the board should be disregarded, as well as Dr. Hyde's testimony that was based on them. One of those medical records, which was dated August 7th, 2025, has never been provided to the state. So we couldn't even respond to that. And in those 5 reports, there's been discussion about multiple hypoxic events. Those reports show one hypoxic event. That was on February 18th, where his oxygen saturation was 83 to 89. In Dr. Hyde's report, he says below 85 is critical. And there's no indication in the report how long he was below 85. The remainder of the reports, which are in evidence but were not included in the excerpts, his oxygen readings were 90 or above. Also, one of the arguments that was made today is that Mr. Menzies' vascular dementia likely began in 2018. I believe Dr. Hyde speculated that the fall from the ladder that happened in 2018 may have been related to that. But when he was asked about what the imaging showed, he said that the damage that the imaging showed had to be at least 6 months old. But when he was asked if he could anticipate going backwards from there, how much earlier it had started, he said that was impossible. So based on the imaging, the most we have is that his dementia may have begun 6 months before the image, which was done in June 2023. There was some discussion today about us asking for
Josh,
an
thank you so
opportunity to
much.
evaluate
Thank
Mr.
you.
Menzies
Thank you.
and to get the raw test data that his experts relied on for the reports that were submitted here. And if I understood the argument correctly, it was not provided to us because there was a process to get that, and the process was to agree to reopen the competency proceedings in district court. But we weren't asking for that material for district court. We were asking for it to address the evidence that Mr. Menzies proffered here. So in essence, the argument is we had to agree to further court competency proceedings in order to be able to gather evidence to address what was raised here. I also want to address that there was an argument. So there were a number of calls. There were 15 calls that didn't go through. 11 of those calls, 2 were an invalid inmate number that was entered. One was a call that was refused by the recipient the first time, and one where that Menzies' voice broke while he was the password. You have to recite a phrase for the password, and his voice broke when he did that, and so the password wasn't accepted.
It is. It's not as long as the first one. It just feels like it because of the way he's talking.
The rest, the message says that the call isn't to an unauthorized number. It is possible he was misdialing. It's also possible he was trying to call a number he wasn't authorized to call. So there's no, it's not quite accurate to say that it's evidence that he was forgetting numbers. That's a possible inference, but it is not the only inference. There was also a comment made that when that happens, you can hear Mr. Menzies cursing. I did listen to all of those. I never heard that. All I heard was once that message said that's an unauthorized call, the call ended. There's also been a lot of discussion about, again, Judge Uno's affidavit and the conviction integrity unit's determination. As I said, Judge Uno did change his mind, but he did so based on something that the Utah Supreme Court has already said was, if an error at all, was a harmless error. And as to the conviction integrity unit, it would be unprecedented to commute a death sentence based on a determination of a non-adjudicatory body that made its assessment based on evidence presented by only one side. And I think the same goes for, or a similar reason for disregarding Justice Durham's determination.
He did. He got his puppy. He got his puppy a little bit ago, and he posted this today. And it's a short of his puppy, and it has almost 1,000 views already. Yep.
On that board, she may have. She when she was sitting on Mr. Menzies' case as a justice, she heard both sides and both times voted to affirm his sentence. It was only after there was a unilateral presentation where she said that it should be, his sentence should be reduced. And the conviction integrity unit is not bound by any kind of legal standards. It can make its determination based on whatever it wants to. So if she's changing her mind, she's not basing it on an application of the law. It's been suggested that that decision is extremely important because she had voted to affirm in the past. But when it would not have changed the outcome there. I mean, for that to be more persuasive, I think you'd have to find 2 more justices to say, no, his sentence should be different. So even if she's changed her mind now, it wouldn't have made a difference to the sentence. There's been a lot of discussion about Mr. Menzies sitting in urine-soaked clothes and not telling anyone. There's no evidence of that. And the only evidence talking about an incontinence issue was in the August 7th or at least it was presented on Wednesday, was in the August 7th report, which isn't actually in front of the board. So I want to end my presentation where this hearing began. And that is on Wednesday, was with a request for the board to grant Mr. Menzies mercy. He told the board that it should let him die a natural death in prison rather than, oh, I did forget something. I do want to go back to the life without parole. There's been a lot of discussion about this board commuting a sentence to life without parole, and that would end this case. I understand that the statutes prohibit this board from imposing or commuting any other sentence. But Andrews versus Board of Pardons said that the increased restrictions in 5.5 violated ex post facto. So if this board commutes to life without parole, Menzies would have may well argue in court that it violates ex post facto for him not to get a life sentence or have his sentence commuted to life. So I think the board, one, should keep in mind that if it is a life without parole, it may not stay a life without parole. But two, it will not necessarily end this case and provide for the victims or for the people of the state. Mr. Menzies' challenges to his sentence may well continue. I apologize for missing that. Again, Mr. Menzies began by or his attorney asking the board that it should grant him mercy. Told the board that it should let him die a natural death in prison rather than under the sentence imposed and reviewed for 37 years. And while he conceded that Maureen's death is a tragedy,
What? That's
he
crazy.
added that carrying out Menzies' sentence would not bring her back. But while Mr. Menzies is telling the board that he is entitled to mercy, he showed no mercy when he robbed, kidnapped, and murdered Maureen nearly 40 years ago. And he could have shown her mercy. He could have released her. He chose instead to hold her for 12 hours, during which he told her to call her family to say that she would be released. And he didn't release her. He didn't show her mercy. And then, instead, he inflicted a worse fate on her than he asked the board, than the one from which he asked the board to spare him. He took her to Storm Mountain, handcuffed her to a tree, strangled her, slashed her throat, and left her body on the ground. Imagine the terror she felt tethered to that tree, waiting the fate Menzies would eventually mete out. And you don't have to imagine what Menzies' family went through, because they told you, waiting for days to find out what happened to her after they'd been told that she would be released.
Sally, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You're
And
another.
unlike Mr. Menzies,
You are another that has been in this channel for a long, long, long time.
none of this happened to Maureen because she committed a crime. Unlike Mr. Menzies, her life was taken without a trial, without 4 appeals to the Utah Supreme Court, and without federal habeas review in the U.S. District Court and the 10th Circuit. She didn't get to make a plea for mercy to a neutral body. She could only plead for mercy for Mr. Menzies. He showed her none because it was against his self-interest, and he's never shown any remorse for that decision. And as the family pointed out, the board did show mercy to Mr. Menzies before. It determined that he deserved to be released, and 18 months after he was released, he murdered Maureen. Mr. Menzies' counsel also asked the board to let him die of natural causes and suggests that will be soon. But again, Mr. Menzies did not let Maureen die of natural causes, and he's already had 40 more years of life than she did because he stole her life from her. That's 40 years of family contact that Mr. Menzies has had through visits and telephone calls, but that her family never got to have. And Mr. Menzies' expert did say that the lifespan for persons with vascular dementia is 5 to 7 years, but it can also be up to 9 years. And again, we don't know that the starting point is any sooner than early 2023. And if Maureen had even just had 49 more years, she could have seen her children grow into adulthood. She could have been there for her grandchildren and great-grandchild. She could have been there to care for her aging parents and attend their funerals. And Mr. Menzies should no longer get to keep for himself what he stole from Maureen and her family. Finally, the statement that her death was tragic and that the argument was made on Wednesday that carrying out the death sentence won't bring her back. I do think there was a greater acknowledgement today, but calling it tragic, I think, trivializes what was done to Maureen and her family. And it suggests that it's something that just happened to her and that Mr. Menzies had no part in it. But what it really was Menzies made a cold calculation that it was to his greater advantage to kill her, so he killed her. He is right. We can't bring Maureen back. There is nothing that the state or Mr. Menzies can do that will make Maureen and her family whole. The best we can do is the next best thing and fulfill the promise to carry out the punishment imposed on Mr. Menzies 37 years ago. Her family, as you've heard, have been through more than enough, waiting while the courts carefully scrutinized his sentence and found it constitutionally sound at every level of review. The board has heard from the family directly, and the pain that they've suffered, or it should fulfill the promise made to them. Mr. Menzies also argued today that because the executing him now because he's no longer a threat would serve no purpose. But the family's testimony today says the opposite. It's what they need to bring them closure. It's what they've been waiting for. Mr. Menzies' sentence is fair and just and should be carried out without further delay. All right, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Brunker. Mr. Zuckerman.
Can we just get like 5 minutes just to? I won't have more than, I think I have 35 minutes reserved. I doubt I'll use even half of that. It would be helpful if I could have a few minutes to consult my team.
Sure, we'll take a 5-minute break.
Thank you.
We are on the record, Mr. Zuckerman.
Thank you. Ms. Brunker talked about medical records that were relied upon that they say we should have submitted as exhibits to the board. But all of those medical records, with the exception of the last one, which we received days before this hearing started, were both in the possession of the state and were relied upon by all the experts who wrote reports leading up to this. The fact that they were in the reports and relied upon in those reports is the reason that we did not submit that. There were a lot of records and materials that were relied upon by those experts that were not submitted as independent exhibits. We are more than happy to provide to the board the medical record that we received on August 7th. If there's question about the integrity of Dr. Hyde's testimony about that report, of course, we're more than happy to provide it. It shows what he said. It shows Dr. Green has always downplayed the possibility of dementia, and at the evidentiary hearing on competency, he maintained that dementia was an improper diagnosis and that all of the other experts who diagnosed Mr. Menzies, including the DHS experts, were wrong. I think his testimony yesterday speaks for itself when he, to me, he more or less said that Mr. Menzies did not have dementia. He certainly did not agree that he did have dementia. Like I said at the beginning of this hearing in the introduction, like the issue isn't about sort of how bad is his dementia. That's not the only reason that we're here before you asking for mercy. He does have dementia. He's in a wheelchair. Like, he's in bad shape. You can see that he's in bad shape. All of the medical records show he's in bad shape. And that's one factor, and only one factor, to be considered by this board in determining whether to grant Mr. Menzies mercy. Dr. Green said that Mr. Brunker talked about how Dr. Green said that the phone calls were the best evidence of measuring his decline. But Dr. Green admitted that there was decline. He admitted that Mr. Menzies is speaking less. He admitted that there were less phone calls. And it's concerning to me that Dr. Green sat there and testified, about these phone calls and basically did a whole neuropsychological evaluation by listening to 13 phone calls, but completely ignored the testimony of Stephanie Callahan, which happened right in the same day, right before him. I mean, she got up and talked about her personal experiences about his decline. And that was her observations were outside of the court system and outside of formal evaluations. But Dr. Green doesn't talk about them. And, she was credible. She has no motivation to come in here and exaggerate about Mr. Menzies' medical condition. In fact, it took a lot of courage for her to come in here and testify on behalf of Mr. Menzies and speak truth to this board. And I think that the failure to recognize that by the state and the state's expert sheds light on, at least Dr. Green's credibility, and I think it sheds light on what the state's trying to do here. Mr. Brunker said that Dr. Green made a mistake about the calls under protective order, and he apologized for that, and I appreciate it. But, if it was a mistake, like, why did I have to correct it? Why did it have to go on? Life expectancy, Dr. Hyde did testify that life expectancy for someone with terminal vascular disease, not dementia, but terminal vascular
thank you so much. Thank
is typically
you.
5 to 7 years and up to 9 years. And he was asked, when it's up to 9 years, what's the medical condition of that person? And he says, it depends on the medical treatment, the quality of the medical treatment, and whether their conditions are being controlled. And he also testified that Mr. Menzies' hypertension has never been controlled. And he testified about repeated hypoxic events, which have been well documented in this case. Look, I'm not saying I have a magic ball and I'm telling you when he's going to die. I don't. What I'm saying is he has terminal vascular disease. He's confined to a wheelchair. He has an oxygen tank. And, that is something that this board should consider when determining whether it is necessary for him to be brought into an execution chamber and killed, when the primary justification by the sentencing judge for the imposition of the sentence was to protect society. He's no longer a risk to society. Dr. Green, or Mr. Brunker, talked about the 15 calls that didn't go through, that may or may not have been provided. 2 were an invalid inmate number. So at least 2 times he couldn't enter his own inmate number, which he's had for 37 years. 1 call was refused by the recipient. 1 where Menzies' voice wasn't strong enough to say his own password. And the rest, the call is to an unauthorized number. And Mr. Brunker said it's possible that he was misdialing, but it's also possible he was trying to call a number he wasn't authorized to call. But let's think about that for a minute. Mr. Menzies has been in prison for 37 years. He knows that if a number isn't authorized on his list, call's not going to go through. So what logic is there behind saying, well, he was maybe just calling a number that wasn't authorized? Either way, it shows that he's declining. He doesn't, either he's forgetting the numbers or he's dialing numbers that that are impossible to go through because they're not on his list. So he doesn't know what numbers are on his list or aren't on his list. Either way, Mr. Menzies is declining. I really just don't think that's debatable. And frankly, I think it's unfortunate that so much of this hearing has been about this. We wanted to present this board with the medical evidence that demonstrates his condition. So
The condition of the family has all been declining over the last 30 years waiting for this.
that the board can take that into consideration because it is an important factor. Most of this medical evidence, I think, really isn't contestable. And we spent a lot of time up here talking about that. And it's unfortunate. The only other thing that I want to say about the calls is that, Mr. Brunker talks about the 15 calls that didn't go through, and he says, well, he didn't listen to all of those. But it's 15 calls. If you're arguing that he should be executed because those calls, then listen to them.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Mr. Brunker.
You're right. You're right. We want this man executed because of those 15 phone calls. We are terrible people. Guys, come on. Come on. I'm not mad at y'all, but I am pretty disappointed.
So there needs to be an extremely compelling reason to grant clemency. And I agree. I believe we presented several extremely compelling reasons, but reliance on perjury is one reason that cannot be overlooked. What can be more compelling than that? Mr. Brunker says that the record does not support that future dangerousness was not a critical basis for Judge Uno. And then he talks about all the aggravators and mitigators. But as I explained to you in my introduction, and as I read to you, there were two statutory prongs. The first was the weighing of the aggravators and mitigators. And then the second was the reasonableness of the death penalty. And that's why I read those 3 pages to you, even though it was sort of painful to sit there and read, 3 pages, because that was the entirety of Judge Uno's discussion on the record about why he thought the death penalty was appropriate. And it exclusively focused on the risk to the community and the risk to people in prison and the risk that he could get out one day. So, whether or not, the future dangerousness was critical at the aggravating and mitigating stage, there's no question that that was a central issue in Judge Uno's mind when he determined that the death penalty was appropriate, which was a statutory requirement for him to impose death. Sorry, this is a little out of order, but the issue about incontinence, he's sort of saying there's no evidence about that. I'd suggest
It's out of pocket, not out of order.
that you look at the declaration of Sergeant Orton, which is submitted to this board as Exhibit 6, paragraph 6, where he talks about providing Mr. Menzies with a additional jumpsuit because he had urinated himself. There's that, and if you look at the
I've been streaming for 7 hours and 37 minutes today, and I've urinated on myself. Just kidding. I really haven't.
reports, I know there's a lot to read there, but several of the experts said that Mr. Menzies was, had been told, and this was, from reportings about a year ago, that Mr. Menzies had been told that, that his hygiene was problems, that he smelled like urine, that he needed to shower. The state, Mr. Brunker is trying to scare you by saying that if you grant Mr. Menzies clemency, there's a chance that he's going to get out and that this isn't going to end his challenges. That's not my reading of the ex post facto law. I think that the ex post facto law says you can't be sentenced to something that is more severe than what your original sentence was, and his original sentence was death. But I mean, I wouldn't be swayed by that. We are not, this will end it. This will end it one way or another. One way or another, this is going to be done either after this board's decision, or after an execution. Please don't be pushed into thinking that this is some sort of a trick designed to get Mr. Menzies out of prison. I mean, look at him, that's not happening. Mr. Brunker said that I said that executing him would serve no purpose. And he pointed to, he talked about the family's pleas to you today to execute Mr. Menzies. And I did not say that it would not serve a purpose for them. What I said is that executing Mr. Menzies today would not serve the original purpose intended by Judge Uno. that it would be shifting.
6 minutes. Not
Judge
even.
Uno's primary concern was future risk of harm to people in prison, to to people in the community, and those people are there is no longer a risk of that. That Judge Uno, in his wisdom, he weighed the aggravators and the mitigators. He did consider the perjured testimony, and I'll talk about that in a minute briefly. But he weighed the aggravators and the mitigators. He found that the aggravators outweighed the mitigating circumstances. And then he talked about the reasonableness of the death penalty. And he said, I struggle with this. And he said, it is with a heavy heart that I come to this sentence. And that was at the end of what I read to you, where all of his reasons for that sentence had to do with the protection of society. If Mr. Menzies is no longer a risk to anybody, then society does not need protection from him. The purpose that Judge Uno sentenced him to death does not need to result in a execution. The courts are not set up for this. They're courts of law, not mercy. They're not designed to protect the interests of society where no legal claim is implicated. This is why this board exists. You have the power to act. You have the power to make sure that Utah does not execute a disabled man with dementia, which it's never before done. You have the power to make sure that Utah does not execute a man whose sentence was obtained through perjury, which you have the power to do, and the state has never before done. You have the power to make sure that Utah does not execute a man where an independent conviction integrity panel has determined that sentence
Thank you,
lacks
Josh.
integrity,
Thank you.
and that the execution would be fundamentally fair. Allowing that to happen would set a precedent in this state about whether the death penalty is reserved for the rarest of cases where there is no question about the evidence that was used to obtain that death penalty. You have the power to make sure that the state does not execute a man where the sentencing judge no longer stands behind the sentence, the man who knew the most about why the sentence needed to be imposed. The state has never done that. You have the power to make sure that Utah does not execute a man whose sentence was imposed under outdated statutes that did not allow for life without parole. You have the power to make sure that Utah does not execute a man who's no longer a risk to corrections officers or inmates or the citizens of Utah. And I talked a lot, and I'll wrap this up, but in conclusion, above all
Yes,
else,
you did.
but for perjured testimony relied on in both phases of the trial, we would not be here today. Without it, Mr. Menzies likely would not have been sentenced to death. Combined with the fact that he poses no threat, there is no need for this execution to proceed in the name of the citizens of Utah. The people of Utah must be able to trust the system that acts within their name. They must have faith that the ultimate punishment is reserved for cases where there is no question about the integrity of the sentence, where there is no question about its fairness or appropriateness. And the people must know that when the Board of Pardons is called upon to act to protect the integrity of the system for which it is a failsafe, that it will exercise its discretion to grant mercy in their name. And Mr. Menzies asks you for that mercy. Thank you.
We are at the conclusion of the hearing. I would like to thank both counsel for both sides for your professional presentation. I'd like to thank the members of the audience who participated today and all of the audience for your attentive, respectful behavior. I'd like to thank Sergeant Scott and the corrections team and the board staff for making sure that the procedures moved smoothly. And with that being said, we will conclude the hearing at this time.
And now we wait. And now we wait. So I'm sure Josh will be on it. I'm sure Pegleg will be on it. I'll be on it. I'll be on it. I will check and see Tuesday if they came up with anything. And then I'll let you know. Thank you so much for coming out to this extremely long Sunday stream. I hope you guys have a great day. I am not streaming tomorrow. It's my dad's birthday. I'm not streaming tomorrow. So I will see you in 2 days. Bye, guys. Thank you. And everybody thank Bill for coming out tonight, too. He's not here, but like when next time you see him, when he does his live stream. Josh, thank you so much. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Bye, guys.